You already know the feeling of walking into a room and sensing, without a word spoken, how people rank you. It is subtle, almost invisible, a slightly delayed greeting, a distracted gaze that passes over you, the polite smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Respect doesn't declare itself with trumpets. It reveals itself in fractions of a second through the way people hold your name. And here is the truth that stings. Most of the time, you have trained them to hold you that way. Not with one grand failure, but with 1,000 small signals you didn't notice you were sending. If you look closely, the world is a mirror with memory. It reflects not only your actions today, but the pattern of your behavior, what you allow, what you chase, what you resist, what you ignore. Today I want to stand with you in front of that mirror and say the sentence that turns a life around. Enough of letting accidental habits dictate deliberate outcomes. The Stoics taught that your life bends toward your character the way a river bends toward the sea, inevitably. Character isn't a poster on the wall, it is a set of choices repeated until the universe knows your name by the shape of your conduct. If you feel that respect is slipping like water through your fingers, don't chase the water, build a new vessel. I want you to feel the weight of this, not as blame, but as liberation. Because if you have been sending the wrong signals, you can start sending the right ones. If you have earned disregard, you can begin to earn esteem. And if you have been waiting for other people to see your worth, this is the moment you stop waiting. Respect is not a donation. It is a receipt. It arrives after payment, and the currency is conduct. What follows will be uncomfortable at times, but discomfort is the tuition for transformation. We will walk through 6 fatal mistakes. Fatal because they quietly kill the respect others would naturally offer you. Fatal because they sabotage your self-respect first. As we move, I want you to hear this as a conversation with your highest self, the part of you that prefers truth to anesthesia, the part that knows that dignity is not a mood, but a discipline. We begin not with what others do to you, but with what you do to yourself when you try to borrow approval like a debt you can never repay. The first mistake shows up with a smile and an apology, the addiction to approval. People-pleasing is a counterfeit coin. It looks like kindness, it sounds like harmony, and it wins quick gratitude the way sugar wins quick energy. But no Stoic ever built a life on sugar. When your compass is the changing weather of other people's opinions, you are not a person. You are a forecast. You agree before you think. You volunteer before you consider. You apologize not because you are wrong, but because the silence feels heavy. Pay attention to the pattern. You promise things you cannot keep. You accept invitations you don't want. You laugh at jokes that dim your own eyes. At first, they thank you. Soon, they use you. And eventually, they forget you. Respect erodes because respect requires boundaries, and a boundaryless person is a shoreline made of fog. The Stoics drew a clean line between what is yours and what is not. Your judgments, your intentions, your choices are yours. Other people's preferences are not. When you surrender your judgments to another's approval, you surrender the only territory you truly govern. This shows up most clearly in conflict. Suppose a colleague misrepresents your work. The people-pleaser swallows the sting, tells himself it's not worth the trouble, and trades a hard conversation today for a reputation tax tomorrow. Or imagine a friend asks you for a favor that violates your priorities. You say yes, then resent the yes, then hide the resentment behind another smile. Slowly, your words become receipts for debts you never intended to owe. Think of respect like gravity. Your boundaries are the mass that makes you significant in the room. Without them, you float. The cure is not cruelty, but clarity. Begin practicing small refusals that honor large obligations. When someone asks you to take on what is not yours, respond with a sentence that is both firm and calm. That's not a commitment I can make. Practice letting silence sit after you speak. Don't pad your no with apologies and essays. A clear no honors every yes you've already made to your health, your craft, your family, your future. People who matter will adjust. People who use you will leave. Both outcomes increase respect, one through alignment, the other through subtraction. Approve of your own standards first. Others will notice, and even those who dislike your boundaries will learn to measure their requests against them. That measurement is respect. The second mistake is emotional leaking, reactivity dressed as honesty. In the age of performative vulnerability, many people confuse unfiltered expression with authenticity, as if the highest self is a fire alarm that goes off every time a feeling rises. Stoicism does not ask you to be a statue, it asks you to be a steward. Emotions are weather, character is climate. If every gust of wind knocks over your house, people will stop coming inside. Emotional self-control is not repression, it is responsible arrangement. When anger spikes, when envy rises, when anxiety crowds the mind, the untrained person becomes a loudspeaker for their lowest impulse. They interrupt, they gossip, they slam doors, they curse the traffic and call it keeping it real. What they are keeping is a habit, externalizing storms that were meant to be navigated internally. Respect dies here because volatility forfeits reliability. No one trusts a bridge that shakes every time a truck passes. No one confides in a friend who treats confidences like currency in a social market. And no one follows a leader whose tone decides the tone of the room. The Stoic practice begins with naming. If you can name the emotion, you can negotiate with it. Say quietly, anger is present, not I am anger. That small grammatical shift opens space for choice. Next, interrogate the judgment beneath the feeling. Marcus Aurelius did not write his meditations to the world. He wrote them to the rash emperor inside himself. Is this in my control, you ask? If no, release it like a bird that was never yours to cage. If yes, act with precision rather than noise. A practical ritual. Before you reply to a provocative message, write your first response and delete it. Then write the response you would be proud to see quoted out of context. Send that one. Before you enter a conversation that triggers you, perform a brief audit. What outcome would honor my values? What tone would make that outcome more likely? What sentence can I prepare in advance when I feel my temperature rising? The more you rehearse these micro-choices, the more you convert emotion into energy rather than collateral damage. People notice the difference. You become the person they call when the room is on fire, not because you never feel heat, but because you carry a bucket instead of a flamethrower. Respect gathers around that kind of steadiness the way sailors gather around a lighthouse in a storm. It's not the absence of waves that matters, it's the presence of a fixed point. The third mistake is the quiet bankruptcy of broken agreements. You mean well. You intend to show up. You genuinely believe your future self will have more time, more energy, more discipline than the self who is speaking now. So you say yes to the meeting, yes to the deadline, yes to the dinner, yes to the early morning workout, yes to the book you will definitely read. Each yes buys a small moment of relief in the present and sells a large portion of respect in the future. When the time comes, you cancel, you postpone, you arrive late, or you arrive unprepared and promise that next time will be different. The Stoics would call this a failure of justice, the virtue that governs our obligations to others. Justice is not only about courts and laws, it is your consistency in paying what you owe when your words function as currency. Every promise is a contract between your mouth and your character. Break enough contracts, and the market adjusts. People stop believing your timelines. They pad your deadlines. They invite you last. They copy someone else on the email, just in case. This is how respect dies in logistics. The repair begins with shrinking the gap between intention and execution until your calendar is a mirror of reality, not fantasy. Do less, but do it when you say you will. Make smaller promises and deliver them early. Replace "I'll try" with "I will" or "I won't," because trying is a polite hedge that sabotages trust. When you do fail, and you will, because life sometimes interrupts with a force you cannot outmaneuver, fail with ownership. Don't outsource blame to traffic or to your inbox or to the cosmos. Write the sentence that rebuilds credit. I gave my word and I missed. Here is how I will make it right, and here is how I will prevent it next time. Then do it. Build visible systems, a task list you actually check, a weekly review where you renegotiate commitments before they break, a buffer in your schedule that treats emergencies as predictable rather than rare. Practice punctuality as a form of respect, not as a superstition. Arriving 5 minutes early is not old-fashioned. It is a visible promise kept in public. People notice. In a world where everyone is super busy, the reliable person is rare enough to be revered. Reliability is not glamorous, but reputations are built on the boring. The Stoic understands that excellence is a series of ordinary agreements honored with extraordinary consistency. The fourth mistake: wears fashionable clothes but carries a rotten scent. Gossip, complaint, and the breaking of confidences. Some people think respect is earned by being in the know, by having the backstage pass to other people's weaknesses. They don't realize you cannot raise yourself by lowering the absent. When you participate in gossip, you declare something about your character to every witness. If she is not here, her reputation is not safe with me. That declaration sticks. The Stoics called speech a moral instrument. To use it carelessly is to practice moral negligence in public. Gossip masquerades as intimacy, complaint masquerades as honesty, and betrayal masquerades as candor. They are not intimacy, honesty, or candor. They are shortcuts to connection that always cost integrity later. Notice how they operate. Gossip: let me tell you what he really did. Complaint: you wouldn't believe how terrible they are. Betrayal: don't tell anyone I told you. Each of these sells you a brief sense of belonging and buys you a lasting reputation for being unsafe. Respect is allergic to unsafe people. The treatment is straightforward and difficult. First, refuse to participate. When the conversation turns to a third party's reputation, practice the pivot. I'd rather talk to her than about her. Let's bring this to her directly. The first time you say this, the room will be quiet. Good. Silence is a disinfectant. Second, discipline your complaints into requests. If you are tempted to groan about a colleague's behavior, translate the groan into a clear ask. In the future, please give me the document. 24 hours before the meeting so I can prepare. Requests create solutions. Complaints create allies in resentment. Third, treat confidences like sacred deposits. If someone trusts you with their struggle, protect it with your life. If you must seek counsel, anonymize the details or ask explicit permission. The Stoics believed that the good life is impossible without trustworthy friendships. Trustworthy friendships are impossible without trustworthy mouths. There is a bonus to this practice. When you refuse the cheap currency of gossip, your words start to carry compound interest. People may tell you less of what is sensational, but they will tell you more of what is real. And when you speak, your opinions will cross the room with a gravitas that cannot be purchased, only practiced. The fifth mistake is the anchor that looks like a shield, the victim stance. Fate did not consult you. Life has handed you an unfair hand more than once. That much is true, and anyone with eyes should admit it. But there is a second truth that determines whether respect gathers around you or drifts away. You do not control the wind, only the sails. People lose respect when every story they tell ends with what was done to them rather than what they did with it. The Stoics were allergic to helplessness, not because they were naive about suffering, but because they believed agency is the only engine strong enough to carry a human being through it. Victimhood as identity hands your steering wheel to the past. You stop making decisions and start making explanations. You stop making progress and start making posts. You ask the world to grade you on a curve because life has been cruel. The world doesn't grade, it observes, it responds, it allocates, and it allocates respect toward those who take responsibility for the part of the problem that is theirs and then get to work. Responsibility is not self-blame, it is self-authorization. This happened. It wasn't fair. Now, what is mine to do? Becomes a mantra that recovers your power like a diver rises by releasing extra weight. Begin with the micro level. If your morning is chaotic, reclaim it by designing the night before. Clothes set out, phone far from the bed, a simple agenda written by your future self to save your waking self from decision fatigue. If your finances are messy, stop narrating the economy and start narrating your ledger. Automatic savings, debt snowball, subscriptions cancelled. One honest conversation with someone who knows more than you do. If your relationships feel transactional, don't post a general complaint about modern dating. Become the kind of person who brings clarity, punctuality, honesty, and boundaries to every table. Respect accrues to people who behave like causes rather than effects. Life will still hurt. People will still disappoint. Systems will still be unjust in places that matter. If you cannot solve the system, solve your corner of it. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still wrote reminders to himself each morning. You will meet with the meddling and the ungrateful. Do not let them make you like them. That is not resignation. That is strategy. When others witness you refusing to outsource your story, they may not be able to give you a perfect world, but they will give you something rare, the honor reserved for those who fight reality skillfully rather than theatrically. The sixth mistake is the erosion you do not see because it happens in private, living without standards. I want you to consider how quietly a day collapses when you don't decide who you intend to be before the world decides it for you. Standards are not rules the world enforces on you. They are rituals you enforce on yourself to protect what you value. Without them, you become a creature of appetite and urgency. You wake when the phone tells you to. You eat when stress orders you to. You respond to messages as if every vibration is a fire. By nightfall, you have been everywhere except inside your own priorities. From the outside, this looks like chaos. From the inside, it feels like exhaustion. Respect cannot attach to a person who treats their life like an accident victim at the scene of their own calendar. Stoicism begins the day with intention. You do not have to write philosophy to live philosophically. You have to design an arena in which your best self has a fighting chance. Build keystone standards that tilt the day toward dignity. A wake-up time that is yours, not your alarm's. A morning ritual that tunes your mind like an instrument. A page of reflection on what is in your control today, what is not, and how you will meet both. A short training session that convinces your body you intend to carry it through this life rather than drag it. A block of deep work protected like a temple where trivialities are not allowed to enter. A rule for your speech. Speak of others as if they could hear you, and speak to yourself as if someone you love were listening. Standards do not require perfection, they require repetition. When you break one, and you will, repair it quickly, the way you would fix a fence before the cattle wander. Tell your environment who is in charge by designing it to collaborate with your better nature. Put your phone where your hands can't reach it from bed. Put your running shoes by the door. Put the book on the pillow so it's the last thing your eyes see. These tiny architectural decisions accumulate self-respect, the way compound interest accumulates wealth. And here is the twist. As your self-respect rises, so does the respect you receive. The world recognizes in you the universal signal of a person who has chosen their posture rather than waited for it to be assigned. People do not need to like your standards. They need to see that you have them and that you keep them. Now, watch how these 6 mistakes braid together into one rope that either pulls you up or ties you down. If you abandon approval-seeking, your no grows a spine, and people learn that your yes is precious. When you regulate your emotions, your presence becomes a shelter in hard weather. When you keep your agreements, your name becomes a password that opens doors others cannot find. When you refuse gossip and complaint, your words turn into instruments, not weapons. When you retire the victim stance, your shoulders remember their strength. When you live by standards, your day stops being a crime scene and becomes a craft. This is not a theory, it is a practice, and the beauty of practice is that you can begin anywhere, any time, with whatever you have in your hands. Imagine tomorrow morning as a deliberate experiment. Before you open any app, open a notebook and write 3 lines. 1. What is inside my control today? List actions, not outcomes. 2. What is outside my control that I will encounter? Name the traffic, the meeting, the moods of others. 3. Who do I choose to be regardless? Pick a virtue in plain language. Steadiness, clarity, patience, courage. Carry those 3 sentences like a pocket compass. Each time you feel approval sickness rising, touch the compass and choose the boundary. Each time a wave of anger or envy threatens to spill, touch the compass and breathe, then act with the tone that serves the outcome you wrote. Each time your schedule demands an excuse, touch the compass and pay the promise. When a conversation invites you to betray someone who is not present, touch the compass and pivot the discussion or leave it. When your mind begins narrating a story in which you are powerless, touch that compass and rewrite the line. I cannot control this, but I will control my response. And when the day invites you to drift, return to your standards like a harbor. This is not glamorous work. No one will applaud you while you choose it. But something miraculous happens in the quiet. Your reflection starts to trust you. The eyes in the mirror soften, not with laziness, but with recognition. This person has me. That trust leaks into your walk, into your words, into your handshake, into your silence. Other people feel it before they understand it. They may not call it Stoicism. They will call it respect. There is a final piece I want to place gently but firmly in your hand. Many people study these ideas like museum pieces, beautiful, admired, and behind glass. They nod as they walk by, then return to a life ruled by impulse and reaction. Do not be a tourist in your own philosophy. Take one principle home and use it until it looks worn. For a week, practice unshakable punctuality. Watch how it changes the way people speak to you. For a week, refuse to speak about anyone in their absence what you would not say in their presence. Watch how your conversations thin but deepen. For a week, end every promise with a system, a calendar invite, a reminder, a checklist. Watch your reliability compound. For a week, write before you scroll. Watch your focus return like a friend who never stopped loving you. At the end of that week, you will not be a different person. You will be the same person, trusted by your own behavior. Respect is not an aura. It is a trail. You build it step by step, and others follow it back to the source. A human being who decided to be the governor of their choices. The Stoics were not superhumans. They were practitioners of simple disciplines carried out in hard moments. They believed that while the world is chaotic, your conduct can be coherent, and coherence is magnetic. If you have ever met someone whose presence calmed the room, you have met coherence. If you have ever met someone whose words meant more because their actions had already spoken, you have met coherence. You can become that person for yourself first. The world will notice later. The time gap between your private standards and your public respect is not your enemy. It is your training ground. There is no hack, but there is a path. And it is walked by refusing 6 fatal mistakes and replacing them with 6 deliberate practices. Let me speak to the part of you that is tired. You don't have to fix everything today. Choose one place where respect is bleeding out of your life and apply a tourniquet of action. If that place is people-pleasing, write the exact sentence you will use the next time someone asks for a piece of you that would cost your priorities. I can't take that on, but I wish you well with it. If that place is reactivity, choose a breathing practice you can do invisibly. In for a count of 4, hold for 4, out for 6. If that place is broken agreements, set a timer for 15 minutes and audit your open promises. Decide which to keep and which to renegotiate today, not tomorrow. If that place is gossip, tell one friend you are retiring from it and ask them to hold you accountable. If that place is victimhood, write 2 columns, what happened and what I will do. Fill both. If that place is standards, choose a bedtime and a wake time that turn tomorrow into a runway rather than a crash site. None of this will earn you a parade. It will earn you something better, the quiet astonishment of realizing that respect is not mysterious at all. It is simply the natural response the world gives to a person who respects themselves in the dark. You could stop the video here and feel inspired for an hour, or you could make a small vow and keep it by sunset. That is how a life changes. Not because you watched a lecture, but because you made contact with a sentence that turned into a choice. I cannot promise you that people will never slight you again, or that your boundaries will not be tested, or that your emotions will always behave. What I can tell you is that as you become the kind of person who does not commit these 6 mistakes, you will notice something radical and subtle. The mirror will start to greet you differently. You will see less improvisation and more intention. You will see fewer apologies and more decisions. You will see a person who has stopped begging for good treatment because they have started giving it to themselves as a rule. The world begins to learn from you how to treat you. That is respect's secret origin story. It was never in their hands. It was growing, quietly, in yours. And if you need a final nudge, listen to the advice Marcus would write to himself in your situation. Do not argue what a good person should be. Be one. The same applies to respect. Do not debate what you deserve. Behave in a way that makes the question redundant. When your actions are a steady flame, even those who dislike your light will not be able to deny it. They will adjust to it. They will move around it. They will take it into account. In that sense, the goal is not to be liked, not even to be admired. The goal is to be undeniable. Not because you are loud, but because you are consistent. Not because you are flawless, but because you are faithful to your standards. Respect follows such people the way a shadow follows the body. You don't have to chase it. You only have to walk. In the last conversation, we stripped the illusions around respect and saw how it begins in the private sanctuary of your choices. You probably felt it, the surge of quiet power that comes when you draw a boundary, keep a promise, regulate a storm inside your own chest. That wasn't the end of the road. It was the door. Today, step through. Because what destroys respect faster than big failures are the thousands of small, repeatable habits that seem harmless while they're happening. Weakness rarely announces itself with fireworks. It shows up in slippers, saying, "Just this once." If last time we lit the flame of self-respect, today we're going to shield it from the winds that blow it out. As a Stoic, you don't demonize the wind. You learn to sail in it. And to sail well, you must recognize the currents that pull you off course every single day. So let's be uncomfortably honest. There are 13 daily patterns that quietly rehearse weakness until it becomes identity. You'll see yourself in some of them. Good. That's the beginning of freedom. The mind can't defend a castle it refuses to map. Keep the same tone we built in the last conversation. Not shame, not theatrics. Clear eyes, firm hands. We will go slowly enough to go deep, and we will move smoothly from one to the next, the way one poor habit naturally feeds the next. By the end, you won't just know what weak people do. You'll know exactly how to stop doing it, how to replace each fracture with an unbreakable practice. It starts where every great day is lost or won, the morning. Weak people waste their mornings, but more precisely, they surrender them. They let the alarm ring like an invitation to bargain with themselves. They hit snooze and teach the brain that no means ask me again. They grab the phone first and take a ride through other people's priorities, letting strangers pour noise into a mind that has not yet chosen a single value. They wander into the day, not as authors, but as extras in a story someone else is telling. And then, by noon, they wonder why the day feels like quicksand. The Stoic sees the morning as a ceremony. It is not a slot to be filled, it is a standard to be set. If you start the day reacting, you will spend the day apologizing. Think of your first 30 minutes as a keel under a ship, silent, invisible, decisive. The weak brain wants novelty immediately, a message, a headline, a tiny hit. But novelty is not nutrition. Strength begins with repetition. Rise when you said you would, because your first kept promise changes the chemical flavor of your mind. Hydrate and move, not to build a perfect body by breakfast, but to send your nervous system the memo. We are active, not passive. Sit for 5 minutes and write 3 lines. What is inside your control? What is outside? Who you choose to be regardless. Then begin your most important task in a low-friction, high-focus way. 10 minutes of momentum beats an hour of dithering. The weak person says, "I'm not a morning person." The strong person says, "I govern the first decision, the day follows." When you structure the start, the day stands up straighter for you, and that posture ripples into the next behavior. Now, feel how quickly the surrendered morning leads to the next weakness. Outsourcing your mood to a glowing rectangle. Weak people worship their phones as weather gods. If the screen is sunny, likes, friendly messages, small wins, they're fine. If the screen is stormy, bad news, criticism, silence, they're ruined. The device becomes a slot machine for dopamine, and their inner state becomes a hostage. Nothing is less stoic than handing your emotions to a timeline you can't control. The problem is not the phone, it's the sequence. Touching the external before you've touched your internal is like stepping into a crowd before you've put on your armor. Here's the subtle damage. When your first emotions come from the outside, you teach your brain that the day's meaning lives elsewhere. The antidote is ritual and rule. Delay first contact. Put the phone in another room at night, because the person you become in the morning is decided in the evening. Create an inner before outer protocol. Move your body, move your breath, move your pen before you move your thumb. And when you finally engage, engage as an owner, not a consumer. Use your phone to execute your plan. Messages sent, tasks reviewed, calendar checked. Then release it. Set visiting hours for apps that hijack you. If you need a litmus test, use this. Did I use the device to express my values or borrow a mood? Weakness borrows. Strength generates. The world will still invade your day. This is not about building a monastery. It's about refusing to let notifications become negotiations with your dignity. The moment you decide that your nervous system is yours to regulate, you begin to regain the most precious asset in a distracted age, a stable interior. From this interior, we confront the third daily weakness, letting emotion drive the wheel rather than inform the dashboard. Weak people treat every feeling as a command. If anger appears, they send it. If envy surfaces, they speak it. If anxiety rises, they reorganize the day around it. They call it honesty, as if self-control were deceit. The Stoic knows the difference. Honesty is naming the emotion. Wisdom is choosing the response. Think of emotion as weather moving across the mind. The weak person cancels the trip every time a cloud appears. The wise person checks the forecast and picks the right jacket. Daily life offers practice all day long. The email that pokes your pride, that first reply you draft, is the reflex, not the response. Delete it. Write the reply that you could read aloud to your mentor without shame. The traffic that tempts you to curse. Notice how the anger assumes the universe should part for your schedule. Ask, is it in my control? If not, convert the moment into breathwork or an audio lesson. You did not choose the jam, but you can choose to leave the car stronger than you entered. The conversation that triggers you, prepare a sentence in advance. I want to hear you, so I'll take a minute before I answer. You are not performing for them, you are training yourself. A Stoic day is not a day without weather. It is a day with a lighthouse. Weakness makes you contagious in all the wrong ways. Your tone becomes the room's temperature. Strength stabilizes others because it stabilizes itself first. People begin to respect your presence not because you never feel, but because you refuse to let a gust of wind steer the ship. Do this long enough, and your emotional life becomes a resource others draw from instead of a hazard they step around. And yet, even steady emotions can be wasted if they never become action. Here comes the fourth weakness, a master of disguise. Procrastination dressed as perfection. Weak people wait for clarity to arrive fully assembled, as if a perfect plan is a prerequisite for a single step. They confuse hesitation for caution and safety for wisdom. The day dissolves into false preparations, organizing to-do lists without choosing, researching endlessly without deciding, rehearsing conversations in the head without speaking. The cost isn't just time, it's identity. Each delay whispers to your unconscious, "We are the kind of person who doesn't." The Stoic flips the script. Action is how you earn clarity. In the face of uncertainty, choose the smallest step that burns away confusion. If a decision looms, set a timer for 10 minutes and write 2 columns. What I gain by deciding now, what I pay by waiting. 9 times out of 10, the gains are concrete and the costs of waiting are vague fear. Then decide. If a conversation weighs on you, schedule it. The longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes. If a project looks massive, create a sacred daily slice, a non-negotiable 30 minutes where you touch it, even badly. Momentum is a spiritual phenomenon. It turns doubt into data. Weak people keep rehearsing the worst-case scenario. Strong people gather evidence that forward motion doesn't kill them. Use friction wisely. Make doing the right thing easier than avoiding it. Lay out what you need the night before. Write the first ugly paragraph and leave it on the page so tomorrow's self can't claim there's nowhere to begin. Perfection is a liar that demands proof you cannot provide. Progress is a friend who asks for a step you can always afford. But action demands room, and that brings us to the fifth weakness, saying yes to everything and calling it generosity. Weak people confuse being agreeable with being good. They hand out yeses like candy and then resent the sugar crash. Without boundaries, every request looks urgent and every invitation looks obligatory. The result is a calendar full of other people's priorities and a heart full of quiet anger. The Stoic definition of kindness includes the self. You cannot keep a promise to the world if you break all the promises to yourself. The daily practice is simple and brutal. Make your default answer, "Let me check and get back to you." Then consult the map of your values before you respond. If the request collides with your core commitments, health, deep work, family, rest, say no cleanly. Not a 2-paragraph justification. Not a guilt-drenched apology. A clear sentence. "I'm not able to take that on." Respect rises with the clarity of your no because it increases the value of your yes. You will lose a few people who were attached to your compliance. You will gain trust with those who care about your integrity, including yourself. And here's the paradox. Once your yes is costly, it becomes powerful. People listen when you speak because your words are no longer a blur of accommodation. They are the measured currency of someone who means what they say. Meaning what you say leads straight into the sixth weakness, breaking small agreements and expecting big trust. Weak people treat micro-promises as negotiable. "I'll be there in 5, but it's 10. I'll send it tonight, but it's tomorrow. I'll start Monday, but it's after this busy week." Each broken thread weakens the fabric of your character. Others may forgive you, but your nervous system doesn't. It keeps a ledger. When you face a hard task, the ledger asks, are we the kind of person who shows up? If the answer is sometimes, your energy leaks out as doubt. Stoic justice starts at the smallest scale. Keep time as if it were someone else's. Under-promise by a margin, over-deliver by a minute. If you miss because life occasionally wins, own it completely. I committed to X, I did Y. Here is my make good and my prevention plan. This isn't theatre, it's repair. Build systems that assume you are human. Buffers on deadlines, alarms for transitions, a weekly review where you renegotiate before you disappoint. Turn punctuality into a quiet act of respect. Turn follow-through into an identity. Your presence starts to mean, we can relax now, this will be handled. In a world banging pots for attention, reliability is symphonic. Reliability of word naturally touches the seventh weakness, one that corrodes trust from the inside out. Gossip and complaint. Weak people bond by sharing someone else's worst moment or by trading grievances like collectibles. It feels like intimacy. It's actually complicity. Say a man tears down a colleague to you. He has just auditioned for the role of future betrayer. You are not special, you are nearby. The Stoic refuses to build connection on the bones of the absent. Practice the clean pivot. I'd rather bring this to her directly, or let's talk about what we can do. At first it will be awkward. Good. Awkward is the sound of a boundary being born. Complaints, too, must be disciplined into requests. He never sends things on time, becomes, please send the report by 5 p.m. the day before so I can prepare. Swap the addiction to outrage for the habit of action. This doesn't mean you become naive or mute. It means your mouth becomes a tool you respect. Once people learn that conversations with you will not become weapons later, they entrust you with things that matter. Truth, feedback, opportunity. Your words gain weight because they no longer come cheap. Speaking of weight, the eighth weakness is throwing all of yours to the outside world. Victim theatre. Weak people narrate their life as if fate were the only author. Everything becomes the fault of economy, politics, parents, bosses, algorithms, weather. And to be clear, those forces are real and sometimes cruel. But Stoicism is not denial, it is triage. If you can't control the wind, adjust the sails. If you can't adjust the sails, adjust the schedule. If you can't adjust the schedule, adjust your posture. Responsibility is not guilt, it's permission. When you shift from, why is this happening to me, to, given that this is happening, what is mine to do? Your options multiply. Start small. If mornings are chaos, design them the night before. Clothes out, phone far. First task set. If money is messy, stop narrating the economy and start narrating a spreadsheet. Spending visibility, automatic savings, small debt payments with dates attached. If your industry is unfair, become unavoidable. Learn the specific skills that travel, build a visible portfolio, treat rejection as data, not doom. The victim stance earns nods. The responsible stance earns resources. People instinctively support the person who has already begun to help themselves, not because the world is heartless, but because agency is magnetic. You do not have to fix the world to be strong. You have to stop pretending its flaws cancel your power. Power needs a vessel, and the ninth weakness punches holes in that vessel daily, neglecting the body and calling it hustle. Weak people burn the candle at three ends, then act surprised when there's no wax left. They overcaffeinate, undersleep, sit for hours, scroll through exhaustion, and expect a sharp mind to emerge from a foggy chemistry. Stoicism, the real kind, not the meme version, does not ignore the body. It honors it as the tool through which virtue acts. You cannot keep your word if your brain is soup. You cannot regulate your emotions if your blood sugar is a roller coaster. The daily antidote is basic and therefore frequently skipped. Sunlight early, movement daily, protein and plants consistently, hydration intentionally, screens dimmed and distant before sleep. No biohack outruns fundamentals. Treat training as hygiene, not heroism. 10 push-ups daily for a year builds more strength than one perfect workout every second Saturday. Walk after meals to turn food into fuel. Protect sleep like a contract with your future self. When the world tries to renegotiate at 11:30 p.m., decline. Remember, taming the body is not vanity, it's strategy. When your physiology is stable, your philosophy becomes portable, your reactions slow, your focus deepens, your will gains traction. Weak people keep arguing with gravity. Strong people cooperate with it and put that saved energy into their craft. Craft requires precision, which takes us to the 10th weakness, speaking carelessly. Weak people think out loud and act surprised when others take them literally. They exaggerate to impress, hedge to avoid discomfort, and leave conversations full of assumptions. The Stoic treats language like a blade, kept clean, used sparingly, applied with intention. Precision begins with telling the truth, especially when a lie would be smoother. I'm late because I mismanaged time, not traffic was insane. It continues with exact requests and exact commitments. Don't say soon when you mean Friday 3 p.m. Don't say we should when you mean I will. Words are promises in seed form. Sloppy seeds don't grow. Precision also means restraint. You do not owe your stream of consciousness to the room. Silence is often the most respectful sentence. And when you do speak, aim for the fewest words that carry the most weight. This doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. Clarity reduces drama because everyone knows where they stand. Your life becomes easier not because the world changed, but because your vocabulary finally matches your values. Values, however, need scaffolding in the physical world, and the 11th weakness tears that scaffolding down, living in clutter and calling it creative chaos. Weak people tolerate environments that fight their intentions, desks covered in someday, fridges filled with confusion, digital desktops that look like lost and found bins. Every item you tolerate makes a small withdrawal from your attention. The Stoic makes the environment an ally. As within, so without, works in reverse too. As without, so within. Design rooms that rehearse your identity. Put your tools where your hands reach. Place the book on the pillow so desire beats distraction at bedtime. Lay out the running shoes by the door as an argument for movement at dawn. On your desk, hide anything that invites scrolling. Show anything that invites building. Practice the 1-minute rule. If it takes less than a minute, do it now. Dishes, file that paper, rename that file. Spend 15 minutes every evening restoring order so morning greets you like a partner, not a prankster. This isn't about aesthetic minimalism. It's about removing friction where you can so you have strength left for the fights you can't avoid. Your environment is not a neutral backdrop. It is a silent coach, either shoving you or spotting you. Choose your coach. Even with a supportive environment, The 12th weakness lurks in the mind: constant comparison and covert envy. Weak people scroll through highlight reels and conclude their life is a blooper. They measure their day not against their values, but against the edited victories of strangers. Envy is a map that hides all the roads. It points to someone else's destination and says, you should already be there, without showing your landscape, your weather, your mileage. The Stoic returns the gaze inward. Compare yourself to yesterday's self. Track inputs you control, hours of deep work, workouts completed, kindnesses offered, promises kept, rather than outputs you don't, likes, promotions, luck. When envy rises, turn it into information. What quality am I admiring that I can train? If it's their calm, practice breath and boundaries. If it's their skill, schedule practice. If it's their network, go create value for someone today. Envy resents, admiration instructs. Curate your feeds like a garden. Mute the weeds, water the nourishing, and spend more time planting than spectating. The less you stare at other people's scoreboard, the more time you have to play your game. Finally, all the previous weaknesses culminate in the 13th, quitting at 80% and calling it a sign. Weak people interpret friction as fate. A draft gets hard. They declare the muse has left. A habit breaks once. They declare it wasn't meant to be. A conversation goes sideways. They decide the relationship is hopeless. But every significant result has an 80% wall, a phase where the easy gains are gone and the work becomes boring, where improvement is invisible to the eye that wants fireworks. The Stoic expects the wall and prepares rituals for crossing it. When boredom shows up, you show up with it. When results stall, you switch to measuring reps. When motivation drops, you shrink the habit but don't break the chain. Just show up isn't a slogan. It's a sophisticated strategy for outlasting moods. Adopt the craftsman's view. You don't finish because it's fun. You finish because you said you would. That sentence sounds small until you realize it is the architecture of trust in your life. The day you become someone who finishes what they start, even if the finish is imperfect, you become someone the world can build on. That is respect at scale. Now notice the thread woven through all 13, a transfer of governance from accident to intention. Weakness seeds the wheel to moods, screens, traffic, other people's wants, the story of unfairness, the gravity of clutter, the seduction of envy, the ache of the wall. Strength doesn't erase those. It organizes them. It chooses standards, designs mornings, delays the device, names feelings, moves anyway, guards yes, pays promises, refuses gossip, claims agency, trains the body, sharpens words, engineers space, admires instead of envies, and finishes the work. This is not a personality transplant. It's a daily apprenticeship to your better self. So let's bring this home the same way we began. In the last conversation, with a mirror and a vow, look at your day as if it were a piece of music you are composing. Where does the rhythm break? Where do you pile on instruments until the melody gets lost? Which notes are missing that would turn noise into a song? Choose one weakness you recognized and perform surgery on it for 7 days. Not all 13. 1. If mornings are the leak, plug it with a bedtime alarm, a phone outside the room, clothes set out, 3 lines on paper. If the phone owns you, give your mornings back to your mind and put the worst app behind a password only your future self knows. If you talk too much, practice the economy of words and the luxury of silence. If you drown in clutter, clear one surface and defend it like a border. If you envy, convert it to a training plan. If you quit at 80%, pick one unfinished thing and finish it, however imperfectly. Press publish, send the message, turn in the draft. Each small triumph is a vote. The ballot box is your identity. Don't expect confetti. Expect something better. The moment when your own eyes start to trust you. That trust is gasoline. It turns the friction of effort into the warmth of momentum. People around you will feel it before they can name it. They may say you seem calmer, more focused, more dependable. They may stop testing your boundaries because they can finally see them. They may start offering you work that matters because you're the kind of person who makes matter work. But the real prize is quieter. You will go to sleep at night a little less divided against yourself. Marcus wrote to himself, not to impress the Senate, but to govern his own soul. Do not argue what a good person should be one. In your language today, do not argue what a strong person should do it. Stop feeding the 13 daily leaks, and you will feel a tide begin to turn in your life, slow as truth, steady as dawn. Strength is not louder than weakness. It is simply more consistent. When you become consistent, you become undeniable. And when you are undeniable, respect stops being a negotiation with the world and becomes a signature you leave on everything you touch. So, take a breath. Choose your one change. Write the sentence. Set the cue. Lay out the shoes. Close the app. Finish the page. Not after this video ends. Now. Because every day you are either rehearsing weakness or practicing strength. And practice, as you have just seen, is not a mystery. It is a morning, a mouth, a message, a movement, a minute kept. It is the shape of a life that no longer begs for power, because it has learned the only place power lives, in what you do next. In the last conversation, we unmasked weakness, not as a dramatic collapse, but as a daily rehearsal, a dozen quiet habits that dilute your power until your reflection no longer trusts you. You felt it, didn't you? That sting when you recognized yourself in one of those patterns, followed by a strange relief. If I can name it, I can change it. That is where we left off, on the threshold between recognition and reform. Today we step through that door, because it's one thing to stop leaking strength, it's another to concentrate it so intensely that your days start punching through obstacles that used to look like walls. This episode is not about doing more. It's about doing less, but with the force of a blade sharpened on truth. This is about building a mind that is clear, calm, and lethal in pursuit of what matters. Let me talk to you directly, as if we were sitting at your kitchen table at 5 a.m. when the city is quiet and your excuses are still asleep. Your problem is not that you have too few hours. It's that your attention is scattered like light through fog. The Stoics understood something our era keeps forgetting. The most powerful resource isn't time, it is directed attention. Time without attention is a desert, wide, empty, and impossible to harvest. Attention without time is a seed, small, but all the forest is inside it. If your attention is yours again, your goals stop being far away. They become near and negotiable. So today, we are going to build practices that convert your attention from a leaking bucket into a pressurized hose. We'll start with the invisible enemy, mental clutter. Then we'll design your day like an engineer designs a bridge, around loads, not hopes. We'll sculpt your environment so it stops arguing with your intentions. We'll tame emotion into energy, make decisions once so you don't remake them all day. And finally, we'll learn to close the day in a way that makes tomorrow inevitable. I'm not here to entertain you, I am here to hand you the handles of your own mind, and you, if you're ready, are here to take them. The first thing you must understand is that focus is not found, it is freed. Clarity doesn't descend from the sky like weather. It emerges when you clear away the debris of unmade decisions, unkept promises, and unprocessed worries. Think of your mind as a workbench. Weak people attempt surgery on a bench covered with yesterday's tools and crumbs. Then they wonder why the operation fails. Stoic focus begins with a daily clearing ritual, a short, honest meeting with your thoughts. 5 minutes, a notebook, a question. What am I carrying that does not belong to today? Write it. Every floating task, every guilt, every whisper of I should. Do not decorate it. Dump it. The mind is not a storage unit. It is a studio. When you force it to store, it can't create. Once the clutter is visible, triage it with the oldest Stoic filter in the world. What is in my control and what is not? Draw the line like a surgeon draws an incision. What is not in your control goes to a watch without worry list, events to track without offering your nervous system as payment. What is in your control becomes your short slate for the day, not 20 things, not 10. 3. The human nervous system can give greatness to a handful of things and politeness to everything else. Choose your 3 by asking, which actions, if completed, move the heaviest stones? This is not productivity theatre, it is moral clarity. You are not measured by how busy you looked, but by whether you did the work that matters while you're alive. The paradox is that the very act of choosing frees energy. The fog lifts because you have stopped trying to light the entire forest and started lighting a campfire you can stand beside. Clearing the mind is not only subtractive, it is also protective. Your attention is a cathedral. Don't let tourists wander in and flash cameras during prayer. The second discipline is to defend your focus with rules, not moods. Moods are weather. Rules are architecture. Decide in advance when and where your deep work will happen, and then make it automatic. A Stoic day does not ask, "Do I feel like it?" It asks, "What did I say I would do?" Choose a daily window where you build without negotiation. It might be 90 minutes after dawn, or a 2-hour block when the world is at lunch, or a quiet stretch when children are asleep. Guard that window like a soldier guards a gate. During it, your phone is not a companion, it is contraband. Put it in another room. This is not a quirky hack, it is neurochemistry. If your mind even sees the device, part of your attention kneels to it. Train your tools to serve your work, not replace it. Use sight blockers like a moat around your focus. Tell your future, weaker self, "I know your tricks." Then kindly make them impossible. And in that window, begin with the task that requires the deepest thought. There's a reason professional lifters squat first. The heaviest demand deserves your freshest self. When resistance whispers, start with the easy emails. Answer, "I am not building an inbox. I am building a life." After the window, you can be social, reactive, helpful. But you do not negotiate with that sacred block. This one decision, practiced for 2 weeks, will give you more progress than 2 years of half-hearted hustle. Because effort scattered is effort squandered. Effort concentrated is effort consecrated. But rules without rituals are fragile. You need a pre-work ritual that tells your nervous system, "We enter the arena now." Rituals are anchors to help your body catch up to your intention. Keep it humble. Same place, same light, same beverage, same soundtrack. Same first motion. Perhaps you open the notebook and rewrite the problem as a question. Perhaps you read a few lines of a text you respect, not to distract yourself, but to tune your mind to seriousness. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself before facing the day's chaos. You can write 3. I will govern my attention. I will do difficult things calmly. I will measure success by my effort, not by applause. Then remove every object that gives your hands somewhere else to go. Rituals bring gravity to the room. They persuade scattered thoughts to sit down and be quiet. Over time, your brain begins to associate the ritual with a state, clarity on command. That is not magic. That is conditioning in the service of your soul. Now we come to the hidden saboteur of focus, the hunger for novelty. Your mind is an old hunter that loves the rustle of movement. New email, new post, new idea. It feels like life. It is not life. It is noise. The Stoic does not starve novelty completely. That is monastic perfection few can sustain. But he rations it with intelligence. The way you ration is by creating a loop inside your work that generates its own novelty. Turn the big goal into small discoveries. If you're writing, do not set the initial aim as finish the book. Set the aim as discover 3 true sentences about this idea today. If you're building a business, aim to learn one thing about how real customers behave by sunset. The word discover is a lever. It moves the mind from performing to exploring. Exploration satisfies the novelty hunger without abandoning the task. It also keeps your ego from freezing you with perfection. A mind aimed at discovery finds flow because it's allowed to be curious, not flawless. That is how you transform consistency from a grind into a game whose score is insight. But none of this will hold if your environment continues to pull you back to average. Your room, your desk, your apps. They are either training wheels or tripwires. The Stoics did not live in sterile caves. They lived in deliberate spaces. Design your physical and digital environments to be complicit in your success. Start with sightlines. What you see, you will reach for. Put your tools where your hands naturally fall. If you want to read at night, place the book on the pillow in the morning. If you intend to train at dawn, lay out the clothes by the door so the sun sees them first. If deep work matters, keep the desk so clean that your mind becomes the only clutter allowed. In the digital world, curate your home screens like a monk curates a monastery. Remove any app that sells your attention for free. Place creation apps on page 1. Bury consumption behind friction on page 2. Set your browser to open on your project dashboard, not a news site. Each tiny friction you add to distraction returns a slice of willpower to you. Each tiny ease you add to your craft returns a slice of momentum to you. You don't need a perfect studio. You need a room that argues in your favor. Focus is not just a cognitive game. It is a physiological one. Try concentrating while your body thinks it's under siege. Sleep poor, sugar spiked, screen stunned. Your brain is a violin in a humid basement. It can't hold a tune. Stoicism is not a denial of the body. It is a dignifying of it. Treat your physiology as the chassis that carries your intention. The fastest way to a clearer mind is better sleep. Make your evenings a glide path, not a crash. Dim the lights. Exile the phone from the bedroom. Choose a book that calms rather than inflames. Wake at a consistent time, not because tradition says so, but because neurons adore rhythm. Hydrate before caffeine. Let sunlight touch your eyes early. Move your body for 10 honest minutes to warm the engine. Then feed yourself like someone you respect. Protein, fiber, water. A steadier mind follows. And in the middle of the day, when focus frays, don't throw more coffee at the problem. Stand up. Breathe 5 slow cycles. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 6, and walk for 3 minutes. It is astonishing how often a motivation issue is a chemistry issue wearing a mask. Still, even a well-fed brain will scatter if you let emotion run the agenda. This is the next frontier, emotional clarity as a focus tool. You think you're distracted because you lack discipline. Often you're distracted because you're avoiding a feeling. The hard email carries the risk of rejection. The financial spreadsheet threatens your illusion of control. The creative draft will expose your talent to your own judgment. Your brain, trying to be kind, escorts you to Instagram. The Stoic refuses the escort. He names the emotion like a scientist labels a specimen. Anxiety is present. Shame is present. Excitement is present. The moment you put a clean label on a feeling, the intensity drops. From there, ask the question that turns emotion into fuel. What specific action within my control would turn this feeling into momentum? If it's fear of rejection, write the email and send it before you can campaign against yourself. If it's shame about money, open the account and look directly at the number. Reality is kinder than imagination. If it's confusion, break the task into a smaller question and answer just that. You are not trying to eliminate emotion. You are training it to become a signal rather than a steering wheel. The result is a mind that can feel deeply and still work precisely. That combination is rare. People will call it talent. It is training. There is another kind of clutter that steals focus. The 1,000 optional decisions you make that erode your will like waves erode a cliff. What will I wear? When will I start? What will I eat? Should I do this first or that? Decision fatigue is the silent killer of great afternoons. Michael and Marcus would agree on this. Make fewer decisions by making better ones upstream. Build standards so your day runs on tracks rather than impulse. Choose a simple uniform you enjoy and repeat it. Decide your first work window and enshrine it. Decide your workout days and default to them. Decide your phone rules and obey them even when no one can see you. These are not shackles, they are scaffolds. They lift your day so your best attention is spent on judgment that matters. When the unexpected hits, and it will, your standards act like a keel. You will wobble, not capsize. And when you do break a standard, repair it by sunset. Weak people negotiate new standards every week. Strong people protect old ones every day. Now we address a mistake that kills focus while pretending to honor it. Multitasking your soul. You pile 10 goals onto one life, then act surprised when none of them move. The Stoic chooses one North Star per season. Not because other goals are unworthy, but because greatness demands concentration in time, not just intensity in effort. Select one project that, if advanced for 90 days, would change the slope of your life. Define what advanced means with clarity you could hand to a stranger. Then align your calendar, your reading, your workouts, your networking, your content, yes, your content, around that project. Let everything else be maintenance, not obsession. You will feel fear when you choose. You will fear missing out on 100 other futures. But the paradox is just like breathing. You can't inhale everything. You focus, and life becomes breathable again. When your mind has one banner to rally around, your scattered energy assembles into an army. This is what a focused life feels like from the inside, not hectic busyness, but a satisfying click as your days lock into a pattern that makes sense. Focus is fragile, so we must speak about interruptions, both external and internal. External interruptions are obvious. Colleagues, messages, knocks on the door. Solve them with agreements. Tell people your deep work hours and keep them. Put a sign on your door. Batch communication windows and respond then. You teach people how to treat your time by how you defend it. Internal interruptions are subtler. They arrive dressed as ideas. In the middle of deep work, you suddenly remember you need batteries, or that brilliant new angle for a different project, or the existential question of your calling. The solution is a capture system, paper beside you, a single place to park the thought, and a promise to review it later. This small move is giant mercy. The mind relaxes because it knows that the thought is not lost. It is simply not allowed to hijack the present. That is how you move from being a victim of your creativity to being a steward of it. Now we come to the craft of attention itself, learning to stay. Your first reps in focus will feel clumsy. Your mind will sprint away like a puppy. Do not scold it. Train it. Use intervals. Work for 25 minutes. Break for 5. Then 30 and 5. Then 40 and 10. Slowly extend your attention the way a runner extends mileage. When your mind wanders, notice it without drama and bring it back. Each return is a push-up for your attentional muscle. You will be tempted to judge yourself by output. Early on, judge yourself by return rate. How many times did you come back? That number is the birth certificate of a stronger mind. Soon you will taste something special, immersion. Time will thin. The edges of you will soften. This is not mysticism. It is the nervous system operating unburdened. You will emerge with a calm that doesn't need permission. That calm is addictive in the best way because it is earned, not purchased. You will chase it by sitting down sooner tomorrow. All this work is meaningless if you don't close the day with intention. Most people let their evenings dissolve into aimless consumption, then expect mornings to be brave. That is backwards. Nights teach mornings what kind of person you are. End each day with a brief audit that feels like putting tools back on the wall. Ask 3 questions. What did I move that matters? Where did I allow noise to win? What one move tomorrow would erase the most friction? Write your answers. Set your clothes. Place the book. Prepare your water. Draft the first sentence of the hard email. If there was a conflict, decide if you will address it and how. Then shut the lid on work, like shutting a gate. Rest is not the enemy of focus. It is the renewal of it. You cannot hold a bowstring taut forever. Release, sleep, and let your brain file and repair. You will wake up with puzzles solved you don't remember solving. That is the nightly miracle you earn by honoring the boundary between labor and leisure. There is a final truth I want you to carry in your pocket like a stone. Focus is a moral choice, not a mood. It is a promise to yourself that you will not abandon your best work because your worst impulses knocked. It is how you treat the few things that make your life yours, your craft, your people, your health, when the many things demand a vote. The world will not congratulate you for choosing it. It will barely notice, but you will notice. Your reflection will notice. The people who rely on you will notice, not because you announce it, but because your presence stops flickering. You become the steady light in rooms that lost their power long ago. So now we bring everything together. Clear the bench each morning, empty the head, separate control from concern, choose the three that move the stone. Guard a sacred window of deep work and enter it with ritual. Build a room and a screen that argue for your future, not against it. Feed the body like an ally. Name your emotions and convert them to actions. Reduce optional decisions by turning standards into scaffolds. Choose one North Star per season and rally your days to it. Capture interruptions, train your attention, measure your returns. Close the day with a brief audit and a gentle gate. Repeat. Do it poorly until you do it well. Do it distracted until you do it deeply. Do it inconsistently until you do it inevitably. This is not an ideal, it is a practice. And practice, done simply and sincerely, is a kind of prayer. If you've listened to me this far, you don't need more inspiration. You need a vow. Right now, pick one element you will enact before the day ends. Move your phone out of your bedroom. Block the app that steals your afternoons. Set the 90-minute window and put it on your calendar. Lay out your clothes. Write the 3 lines for tomorrow morning before you sleep. Draft the first ugly paragraph. Send the scary email. Choose one and perform it as if a camera were rolling, not because others are watching, but because future you is. Let that person be impressed by you for once. The world will notice later. It always does. Remember what Marcus wrote, not as a slogan, but as a survival instruction. Do not argue what a good person should be. Be one. In your language today, do not argue what a focused person should do. Do it. You are not waiting for a calmer world. You are building a calmer mind in a noisy world. And that mind, once it learns to aim itself, becomes a tool so sharp that obstacles start volunteering to be carved into steps. When you finish this video, do not open another. Open your life. Close the tab that dilutes you. Open the document that defines you. Pick up the weight you promised to lift. Boil water. Sit down. Begin. The moment your attention lands, the future changes shape. Because focus is not a lens you find, it is a life you practice. And you, finally, are ready to practice it. In the last conversation, we carved a space inside you where focus could breathe. You learned that attention is not something you find. It is something you free and then defend. But there is a step even quieter, even sharper, and if you take it, your focus hardens into authority. It is the step that most people fear because it exposes them. It is silence, not the absence of thought, but the presence of mastery. If, in the last conversation, we learned to aim the mind, today we learn to sheath the sword and hold it without trembling. Because there are rooms you will enter where the loudest person wins the noise and loses the respect, where the rapid reply impresses for a second and costs for a season, where the quick joke earns a laugh and spends a reputation. If you have ever felt the itch to speak just to prove you belong, this is your antidote. If you have ever walked away from a conversation wishing you could take back a sentence, this is your remedy. If you have ever sensed that your best ideas arrive not in the heat of speech, but in the cool of pause, this is your homecoming. I want you to feel the next few minutes as if we were walking through a temple at dawn. You can hear your steps, you can hear your breath, you can hear the city far off, but it can't touch you here. In this space, we will study 7 reasons intelligent people stay quiet, not as tricks to manipulate others, but as disciplines that shape you. This is not acting shy. This is learning to be deliberate. It is not withdrawing from life. It is approaching life with such care that your presence speaks more cleanly than your mouth ever could. Each reason is a lens. Look through them and your life becomes clearer. Practice them and others will look at you differently without knowing why. They will feel the weight of someone who does not trade their voice for attention, who does not spend their words cheaply, who understands that silence, when chosen, is a form of leadership. The first reason is that listening is power. You've heard that line before, but I want to take it out of the quote and put it into your daily bloodstream. Most people step into a conversation like a sprinter at a starting gun, ready to launch their story, defend their image, correct a detail, insert a lesson. They listen like lawyers, gathering ammunition for their own turn. Intelligent people listen like scientists. They collect data. They let the other person's narrative run long enough to reveal its architecture. They do not interrupt the reveal. They know something crucial. When you let people talk, they tell you who they are. They show you their priorities by the order of their sentences. They show you their fears by the topics they circle and never touch. They show you their loyalty by the way they speak about the absent. If you are speaking, you are broadcasting what you already know. If you are listening, you are expanding your map. The Stoics trained this as a virtue, not a tactic. Epictetus, who began life enslaved and rose to teach emperors through students, placed listening at the center of self-control. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth, he said, not as a cute ratio, but as a daily commandment. Try this today. In your next conversation, ask 1 question more than you normally would. Then hold the silence that follows. Don't rescue it. Don't fill it. Watch how the other person leans into it, how they step closer to their own truth. Feel how your respect for them grows, not because you praised them, but because you gave them space to be more than your assumptions. That space is power. It builds trust the way a steady hand calms a frightened animal. And trust is the only path to influence that doesn't decay. Listening does 3 more things for you that speech cannot. It slows your reflex to defend. It reveals the real problem hidden beneath the apparent one, and it gives your future words a credibility discount. You will need fewer of them to be believed. When you earn that discount, your silence begins to work for you, even when you're not in the room. From that soil of attentive presence grows the second reason. Silence prevents regret. You know, the burn of a sentence that escapes before you can catch it, the sudden hush after a harsh joke that didn't land, the heavy air after a private detail you revealed for a cheap laugh. Words are arrows loosed, not birds you can call back. Intelligent people build a small dam between impulse and expression. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself because he knew a mind is a storm factory. If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not kind, do not say it. If it is not necessary, do not say it. That last line bites. Necessary doesn't mean useful to your ego or entertaining to the table. It means it serves the good of the moment. Picture your daily life as a string of crossroads where your tongue wants to sprint ahead. A co-worker misrepresents your work. Your reflex drafts a biting correction. Pause. Let the reflex pass like a wave. You can still correct, calmly, precisely, without the acid that will cost you allyship next week. A friend overshares your secret. Your reflex wants to embarrass them to balance the ledger. Pause. You can still draw a boundary, cleanly, in private, without injuring the relationship beyond repair. A stranger insults you. Your reflex handcuffs your dignity to a stranger's mood. Pause. Your silence tells your nervous system, We do not answer every summons. Each pause saves you from 100 small regrets and a few life-altering ones. And here's the surprise. When you stop subsidizing your worst impulses with your voice, those impulses weaken. The brain learns that anger has no microphone here. Pride has no stage here. Gossip has no market here. Your silence trains your mind the way a firm trainer teaches a dog to heel. Soon you notice a new sensation. Composure. It feels like walking away with your self-respect still in your pocket. It feels like sleeping without replaying a scene and wishing you could edit it. Silence is not repression. It is responsibility for the wake your words leave. Now see how these first two reasons naturally give birth to the third. Silence protects the dignity of mystery. We live in an age addicted to exposure. People narrate their breakfast and their breakdowns, their plans and their pain, to crowds of strangers who cannot possibly steward it. Noise is cheap. Mystery is currency. Intelligent people are not secretive for sport. They are selective with revelation. They know that not everything true or interesting or exciting must be shared to be real. The Stoics prized inner citadels, places within you that remain yours alone, immune to the crowd's weather. When you keep some part of your process private, you protect it from premature judgment. You allow plans to grow roots before you invite feet to walk on them. You also create a rare signal in the marketplace of attention, restraint. Restraint is fascinating because it is scarce. Notice the people you naturally lean toward in rooms, the ones who do not rush to fill the air, who offer something measured when they speak and leave more unsaid than said. Your instinct is to ask them more. This is not manipulation. It is the ecology of presence. Mystery also creates safety for others. When they sense you are not a broadcaster, they tell you the truth sooner. They ask for help sooner. They bring you into rooms where noise would be dangerous. And there is a selfish benefit too. When you are not constantly narrating, you are free to change without performing. You can make mistakes without crowds, pivot without apology, grow without PR. The most powerful transformations happen off stage. When you return, people will call it sudden. You will know it was 1,000 quiet days without a microphone. The fourth reason is quieter and sturdier still. Silence proves you are not addicted to validation. Intelligent people are not immune to praise. They simply refuse to be ruled by it. They do not measure their worth by the decibel level of a room's approval or the velocity of its applause. They measure by congruence. Did my actions match my values today? They measure by stewardship. Did I use my gifts in service of what I say matters? When you are calibrated that way, you no longer need to argue every point to win strangers to your team. You no longer need to correct every misinterpretation of your motives. You no longer need to defend your choices at every dinner. You can let people be wrong about you without making their confusion your emergency. That is a kind of freedom most never taste. The Stoics called it indifference, not to people, but to the opinions that do not belong to your circle of control. Indifference is not coldness, it is clarity about what you owe and to whom. You owe truth to your conscience, kindness to your neighbor, accountability to your commitments. You do not owe your energy to every passerby who wants a debate. The quiet person who knows this carries an odd calm into rooms. They can let a conversation pass without their stamp. They can applaud someone else's point without competing. They can do excellent work without becoming its advertisement. And here is the delightful paradox. The less you chase validation with words, the more your deeds attract it. People begin to trust your silence because it is backed by visible standards. Your yes means something. Your no means something. Your lack of comment when you could speak means something. This is why the quiet person's rare words land with weight. They are not trying to purchase respect in the moment. They have been depositing it for months. The fifth reason is tactical and tender. Silence is how intelligent people metabolize emotion before it becomes damage. No one is above the surge of anger or the ache of jealousy or the prick of wounded pride. The question is not whether you feel, it is whether you make your feelings expensive for others. The most dangerous sentences in your life will be the ones you said while you were hot. The Stoics trained cooling time into their day. Seneca warned that anger is a form of temporary insanity. Treat it with the protocols you would apply to a flame near dry branches. If a message triggers you, draft the first reply and delete it. If a meeting provokes you, ask for a 5-minute break and take a walk. Leave the room if you must, and let your body change environments so your mind can change channels. If a loved one presses a bruise, name your state out loud. I'm feeling defensive, and I want to respond well, so give me a minute. And you will be astonished how quickly naming the storm takes the wind out of it. Silence here is not the cold shoulder. It is a deliberate pause to choose your tone and target. It is asking, what outcome do I want in this relationship a week from now? And speaking in service of that, not in service of your momentary victory. It is remembering that a precise sentence can build a bridge, and a sloppy one can salt the ground for years. Intelligent people carry small rituals to help. A breath pattern, a phrase they keep in their pocket, a rule never to negotiate by text when flooded, a boundary never to speak about someone who is not present in terms they wouldn't use if they were. These tiny disciplines turn silence into a filter. What passes through is cleaner. What doesn't is composted into wisdom. You learn your triggers. You learn your stories. You learn where your pride still drags a chain. And as your inner weather calms faster, your outer life requires fewer apologies. That is wealth, fewer repairs, more building. The sixth reason is deeply practical. Silence is focus, and focus is force. Imagine your daily energy as a finite current. Every unnecessary argument, every impulsive correction, every reflexive performance is a wire you run to the ground. By nightfall you have powered nothing but heat. Intelligent people are stingy with these wires. They know the difference between a conversation that moves a mission and a conversation that moves nothing but ego. They decline the latter with gracious silence. This frees astonishing amounts of attention for their craft. The Stoics were not philosophers of the armchair alone. They were statesmen, writers, soldiers, teachers. They built because they conserved. When you let silence guard your perimeter, your inner room becomes a workshop where long projects can actually mature. You begin to experience a kind of time expansion. Because you are not starting fires with your mouth, you are not spending hours putting them out. Because you are not narrating every step, you are taking more steps. Because you are not hunting every conversational trophy, you are hunting the thing you said matters, and the result compounds. Skill deepens, reputations grow roots. Opportunities find you while you are too busy to audition. People will call you lucky. You will know you simply stopped hemorrhaging attention. There is another benefit of this silence as focus. You create contrast. In a world of constant broadcasting, the person who only speaks when they have something to add becomes easy to hear. Your signal is clean because your channel isn't clogged. A single sentence can steer a meeting. A brief question can reframe a strategy. A short email can save a week. That is not charisma. That is conservation. The seventh reason is almost mystical and absolutely practical. Silence reveals truth. When you leave empty space in a conversation, other people rush to fill it, and in filling it, they reveal themselves, not because you trapped them, but because nature abhors a vacuum. A vendor shows their real terms, a colleague shows their real concern, a friend shows their real wound. In negotiations, the one who can bear silence holds the advantage because silence invites the other side to add details they didn't intend to, soften demands they thought were firm, humanize positions that sounded rigid in their head. In conflict, silence is the moment where your brain catches up to your values and chooses language that doesn't make you a hypocrite 5 hours later. In learning, silence is how you receive the teacher you didn't expect, the child, the cashier, the stranger on a train who says a line that sticks with you for a decade. The Stoics believed the world is always speaking. Noise keeps you from hearing it. Intelligent people build a life where quiet can occur. They turn commutes into classrooms. They turn walks into laboratories. They turn pauses into compasses. And because they are comfortable not speaking, they can hear when truth knocks lightly. They can sense when a conversation has shifted from point scoring to soul speaking and lower their voice accordingly. They can feel when a room needs less opinion and more presence. This receptivity is not passivity. It is sensitivity trained toward reality instead of ego. It yields better judgments, fewer corrections, and a reputation for saying the thing everyone felt but couldn't articulate, because you waited long enough to know what that thing was. Having seen these 7 reasons, notice how they weave into a single fabric. Listening gives you data. Silence saves you from regret. Mystery protects your becoming. Non-attachment to validation stabilizes your core. Emotional pauses preserve your relationships. Focus multiplies your output. And truth emerges in the spaces you do not fill. Together, they produce a presence that is hard to fake and easy to feel. People start to adjust their volume around you, not because you demand it, but because your quiet becomes the tuning fork of the room. Your family begins to bring you the real conversation, not the performance. Your team begins to self-correct, knowing you won't rescue them with speeches, but will hold them with standards. Strangers begin to treat you with a courtesy they can't explain. This is the social geometry of chosen silence. It shapes how others move without you moving them. Now, let's translate this into the muscle memory of your day. Start at breakfast. Before you check anything that sells your attention back to you, sit with your thoughts and write 3 lines. What is in my control today? What is outside? Who will I choose to be regardless? This simple act quiets the mental static that makes impulsive speech more likely. Carry a sentence in your pocket like a stone to touch. Pause, then serve the outcome. Each time you feel the urge to interrupt or defend, touch the sentence and earn 1 more second of stewardship. When someone speaks, look for the gold beneath their gravel, the fear disguised as bravado, the need disguised as criticism, the fatigue disguised as rudeness. When you find it, speak to that or not at all. Choose 1 meeting this week where you will ask 3 sincere questions and offer no opinions until the last 5 minutes. You will be startled by how much your influence increases, not because you dominated, but because you dignified. In personal conflict, replace instant texts with voice notes recorded after a walk. Your breath will change your tone, and your tone will change the outcome. In your creative work, build 1 hour each day where you do not speak to another human being or a screen. In that hour, your own mind becomes audible again. At day's end, audit your words gently. Where did I speak from fear? Where did I speak from service? Where did I hold back? And was that courage or avoidance? Adjust tomorrow by 1 degree. Silence is not a switch to flip. It is a volume knob you learn to turn with wisdom. You will be tempted to worry that quiet makes you invisible. Let me relieve you of that fear. There is a difference between hiding and holding. Hiding is motivated by shame. Holding is motivated by stewardship. Intelligent people do not hide, they hold. They hold their words until they can carry them with care. They hold their opinions until they are shaped enough to help. They hold their boundaries until the right doors open. They hold their energy until it can build something that lasts. The world does not ignore such people. It eventually relies on them. In a storm of noise, the lighthouse that never screams still saves the ship. And yes, there will be moments when you must speak quickly and loudly, when justice demands a voice, when danger requires a warning, when leadership is silence's younger sibling and must go first. Stoicism is not the worship of quiet for its own sake. It is the worship of virtue. Sometimes virtue roars, but more often it waits, measures, and then places a single word, like a stone, in the exact spot where a bridge needs to begin. If you practice that, your life becomes a long arc of fewer apologies and deeper work, fewer arguments and truer friendships, fewer announcements and greater surprises. So here is your closing assignment, given in a whisper, because it does not need to be shouted. Choose one place in your life where you will practice chosen silence for the next 7 days. If you are a chronic explainer, stop defending your good decisions to people who are not stakeholders. Let the results do your talking. If you are a constant interrupter, wait 3 full beats before you speak in every conversation. Feel how hard it is, and how holy. If you leak plans, keep one project off stage until it has a spine. Surprise yourself with how much faster it grows without spectators. If you are quick to anger, build a ritual between the spark and the sentence. Make it a walk, a breath, a phrase. If you crave validation, leave a room without giving your opinion and notice that you did not vanish. You became solid. Each small practice is a proof to yourself. I am not ruled by noise. I choose when, how, and why I speak. When you go to bed tonight, you will not be able to count the people you impressed today. You will be able to count the regrets you avoided, the relationships you preserved, the energy you saved, the work you deepened, the truths you heard because you finally stopped drowning them out. And as you close your eyes, I want you to remember the image we began with, the temple at dawn. The quiet there is not empty. It is attentive. It is ready. It is full of the weight of what matters. Cultivate that quiet in yourself. Carry it into rooms that forgot how to listen. Let your presence lower the volume and raise the standard. Then, when you finally speak, do so like a bell rung once. Clear, steady, and enough. You do not need to explain your intelligence. You need to embody it. The wise stay quiet for 7 reasons that become one life. A life that doesn't waste its voice. A life that makes words count. A life that can hear the world and answer it without shouting. Be that life. And if you ever forget, return to the oldest Stoic instruction, spoken softly to a restless mind. Do not argue what a good person should be. Be one. In your silence, you will remember how. In the last conversation, we explored the quiet power of restraint, the way silence sharpens focus and makes your presence heavier than noise. You felt it, didn't you? That subtle shift when you stopped rushing to speak and started choosing your moments. Your mind became a cleaner room. Your day obeyed you a little more. Today, I want to take that same edge and move it into the most neglected part of your schedule, the afternoon. Mornings get all the glory, miracle routines, cold showers, sunrise sprints, but most lives are lost after lunch. Focus fades, meetings multiply, screens expand, decisions blur, and by sunset, your energy has been traded for activity that looks like work but does not move your life. The Stoics would not accept that drift. They believed every part of the day deserved governance, especially the hours when most people surrender. So I want to speak directly to you, not as a cheerleader, but as a craftsman handing you tools. Imagine the afternoon not as a downward slope, but as a second summit. If you plan it with intention, you can turn those hours into a force multiplier that doubles your progress without doubling your strain. What follows are 10 habits that seem small on the surface, but are loaded with leverage. They're hidden secrets only because most people refuse to pay attention to the obvious. Each practice carries the Stoic stamp: control what is yours, release what is not, and build a rhythm that makes excellence easier than excuses. No bullet points, no theatrics, just a sequence you can live. If you'll walk with me for the next few minutes, your afternoon will stop happening to you. You will start happening to it. The first shift begins before you swallow another minute. Conduct a midday reset that honors the Stoic separation of control and concern. Right after lunch, but before the internet devours you, step away from your desk with a notebook or a single sheet of paper. Sit somewhere different. Breaking the geography breaks the trance. Draw a simple line down the page. On the left, write what still matters today that rests inside your control. Decisions you can make, drafts you can move, people you can call, promises you can keep. On the right, write what is outside your control that is currently renting space in your mind: someone else's mood, a pending reply, a shipping delay, a rumor, a metric that will only refresh tomorrow morning. Now choose again. Circle the smallest set of left-column actions that would make this day a clear win if completed before evening. No more than 3. Everything else becomes maintenance or is consciously parked for tomorrow. You just rescued your afternoon from diffusion. You are not getting organized. You are practicing justice with your attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This 5-minute reset is the realization in practice. It cuts the rope that ties your nervous system to outcomes you cannot steer, and fastens it to the work that is yours to do. By the time you stand up, your afternoon already feels lighter, because clarity is a stimulant stronger than coffee. Now that you've chosen your targets, you must reclaim the tool that hits them: your brain. The second habit is a strategic recovery ritual. 10 to 20 minutes of deliberate downshift that resets your neural chemistry without stealing your momentum. Afternoons fail, not because you are lazy, but because your nervous system is flooded. Decisions, bright screens, dense conversation, jittery caffeine. Your prefrontal cortex, the command center of deep thought, is tired of catching bricks. Give it a rinse. Find a quiet corner, sit or lie down, and practice one of 2 protocols. The first is the physiological sigh. Inhale through the nose until comfortable, pause, sip a second quick inhale to top off the lungs, then exhale slowly through the mouth. Repeat for 1 to 2 minutes. This offloads carbon dioxide and lowers heart rate rapidly. The second is a non-sleep deep rest. Close your eyes, set a timer for 10 minutes, and scan your body from forehead to toes, releasing tension area by area while allowing thoughts to pass like cars. You are not napping, you are washing the windshield. When you stand, don't sprint. Drink water, step into daylight for 90 seconds, and only then re-enter work. The Stoic theme here is temperance. You are not a machine to be flogged, you are a steward of a tool. 10 minutes of recovery can buy you 90 minutes of lucid output. People will call it discipline. It is actually kindness aimed at your future self. Clarity and recovery. Prepare the mind, but the body is the chassis your focus rides in. The third habit is the power walk, a 10 to 15-minute loop outside that stacks sunlight, movement, and distance from screens. Do not treat this like extra steps to appease a fitness app. Treat it like a ritual that oxygenates thought and recalibrates mood. Walk without your phone or keep it on airplane mode. Notice the ground, the horizon, and your breath. Set a gentle cadence. Inhale for 4 steps, exhale for 6. If you must bring a problem, choose precisely one question and carry it like a stone in your pocket. What is the simplest version of this feature? Or, what outcome do I want from that 4 p.m. conversation? Then let your eyes lift and your mind meander. The Stoics walked and wrote because walking invites perspective. When your eyes travel far, your thoughts follow. By the time you return, your nervous system is steadier, your brain has stitched stray ideas together, and you have gathered the kind of small insight that only appears when you stop strangling the problem. This is not procrastination, it is farming. You are letting the field breathe between harvests so the next pass yields more. Energy management is not complete without the lever everyone abuses, food and caffeine. The fourth habit is a Stoic lunch and a caffeine cutoff, not out of purity, but out of strategy. Lunch should be protein-forward, plant-heavy and boring, in the best sense. You are feeding a mind that must think, not a mouth that must celebrate. Choose meals that stabilize blood sugar rather than turn your afternoon into a roller coaster. A piece of grilled fish or chicken with vegetables and olive oil, legumes with greens and seeds, an omelette with a side salad. Eat until satisfied, not stuffed. Then set a firm caffeine boundary, ideally by 2 p.m. Your willpower is not the problem, your chemistry is. If you keep rescuing your attention with coffee at 4 p.m., you are borrowing focus from the evening and placing interest payments on tomorrow morning. The Stoic would call that folly, because it places immediate comfort over long-term governance. Pair your lunch with a large glass of water and a pinch of salt or electrolytes if you've been sweating or speaking much. You're not hacking your body. You're keeping your instrument in tune. A clear mind is not a moral achievement. It is a physiological outcome of sensible choices repeated without drama. You now possess a clear map, a reset brain, and steady fuel. The fifth habit is the crown, a protected second deep work sprint that honors the afternoon as a sovereign territory, not a scavenger's hour. Choose the hardest of your 3 circled tasks and begin with a 2-minute launch sequence. Close all unrelated tabs, put your phone in another room, open only the materials for the task, and write at the top of the page. By time, this will exist in its ugly first form. You are not aiming at brilliance, you are aiming at existence. Start with the smallest unit. 1 paragraph, 1 function, 1 contact, 1 slide. Use a visible timer for a 45 to 60-minute interval. The Stoic principle is action over applause. In the middle of this sprint, resistance will suggest noble diversions. Check that message, tidy your files, think a little more. Smile at the suggestion and return to the smallest next move. When the timer ends, stand up immediately. Celebrate the rep, not the perfection. If you have more capacity, take a 5 to 10 minute break and run a second interval on the same target or shift to the next circled task. 2 clean afternoon intervals can move a project more than an entire day of scattered effort. People mistake this for intensity. It is mostly removal, the courage to let an hour belong to one aim. You cannot protect depth if your calendar is a wet field of footprints. The 6th habit is ruthless meeting triage. Defend your afternoon minutes with the same seriousness you defend your money. The Stoic tradition treats time as the only non-renewable currency. Waste it less casually than cash. Before lunch, examine the meetings that threaten your second sprint. Ask, what is the outcome this meeting promises that could be achieved faster in a different form? Convert status updates into shared docs, approvals into a clear written decision, brainstorms into asynchronous idea boards with a 10-minute live debrief. If a meeting must happen, stack them back to back in a single block so the interruptions are compressed, and always enter with one question. What would make this meeting finish early? State it aloud. Watch the room's posture change. End with clear owners and deadlines. Intelligent afternoon protection does not make you antisocial. It makes you legible. Your teammates begin to respect your boundaries because you model respect for theirs. And when you are in a meeting, be in it. The phone stays face down. Your eyes stay present. The hour will repay you with relationships that do not require 3 follow-ups to accomplish what one focused conversation could do. Even with fewer meetings, entropy creeps. The 7th habit is a desk and inbox reset at a precise micro moment. The 10 minutes right after your deep work block ends. Most people leap from heavy thought into digital chaos and never recover. Instead, perform a small act of stewardship. Clear your physical surface until only the next active item remains. File or discard what you can in 60 seconds. Then open your inbox with a single aim. Reduce latent anxiety, not get to 0. Scan for 3 categories only. Urgent commitments due today, quick replies under 2 minutes, and items to convert into tasks with dates. Everything else is consciously parked. Create a 3 p.m. triage folder where you drop non-urgent messages you will review in a scheduled admin block later. This is not denial. It is order. You just taught your brain that the queue is not an emergency, and you prevented a dozen mental tabs from chewing your attention for the next hour. The Stoic cares for tools so they don't own him. A clean surface and a tidy queue are small courtesies to your future self. One of the most potent Stoic tactics is making decisions once so you don't remake them all day. The 8th habit embodies this, a standing admin power hour that lives in the same afternoon slot every weekday. Pick a time, perhaps 3:30 to 4:30 p.m., and reserve it for everything shallow that keeps your life moving. Scheduling, receipts, approvals, short calls, light reading, reimbursements, small favors. During deep work, these are traps. During the admin hour, they are throughput. Turn on a simple playlist, set a timer, and mow the grass. You are not allowed to touch heavy work here. The point is separation. The Stoic's virtue of order shines. Different duties have different rooms. When shallow tasks have a home, they stop barging into serious work. Your colleagues learn your rhythm and start receiving faster responses in a predictable window. Your anxiety drops because you know that all the small stones will be lifted each day, but at the right time. And when the hour ends, it ends. You are not chasing infinity. You are keeping your side of the street clean. Your afternoon will double your output only if you land it well. The ninth habit is a shutdown ritual that closes loops and sets tomorrow in motion before your head touches the pillow. 15 minutes before you plan to stop, set an actual alarm. Begin a graceful descent. First, list what you moved that matters. Let your brain see evidence of progress so it doesn't keep hunting for it while you try to sleep. Second, capture open loops. Anything still tugging at your attention goes on paper with a next step and a when. Third, choose the single win that, if completed before lunch tomorrow, would tilt the day. Place the file or tool for that win on your desk or desktop so the path of least resistance points to it. Finally, speak one sentence aloud that trains your nervous system. Work is closed. Life is now. The Stoic knows that leisure is not laziness. It is recovery that enables virtue. When you can end a day without dragging its frayed edges into the evening, you treat the people you love with the respect they deserve, and you treat your future morning with reverence. Tomorrow's discipline is built tonight. There is one more habit, hidden because it is quiet, and decisive because it is cumulative, an afternoon gratitude and perspective check that shrinks problems back to size. Around 4:45 p.m., pause for 60 seconds. Breathe, look out a window, and name 3 true things that went right today, even if they were small. A sentence that finally clicked, a call that landed, a moment of restraint in a tense exchange, a walk in the sun. Then ask one final Stoic question. What did I control well today, and what did I attempt to control that was never mine? Write a single sentence in response. You are not journaling a novel, you are calibrating your compass. This is not saccharine. It is perspective hygiene. When you register wins, your brain stops moving the goalposts. When you release false control, your shoulders drop. The result is a quieter mind that doesn't rummage through unsolved problems while you're trying to be a human being at dinner. Do this for a week and notice how your evenings feel roomier. Do it for a month and notice how setbacks lose their drama. You are not pretending life is easy. You are refusing to make it heavier than it is. If you weave these 10 habits into a single fabric, the afternoon stops being a graveyard for good intentions and becomes a second engine. The midday reset chooses the right work. Strategic recovery returns your mind to you. The power walk widens your view. The Stoic lunch stabilizes your chemistry, and the caffeine cutoff protects the night. The deep work sprint moves the heaviest stone. Meeting triage collapses waste. The brief desk and inbox reset resets you. The admin hour keeps the shallow in its lane. The shutdown ritual brings closure, and the gratitude check restores proportion. Together, they transform hours you used to survive into hours that serve you. This is not about heroics. It is about rhythm. The Stoics did not worship intensity. They worshipped consistency, directed at what is yours to shape. There will be days when interruptions win, when recovery is impossible, when meetings sprawl, when your deep work block collapses under the weight of a single email from someone who pays your rent. Fine. Stoicism is not a fantasy of perfect control. It is the art of governing the controllable, even when the uncontrollable is loud. If all you can salvage is the shutdown ritual and the single sentence of perspective, you still did work that matters. You kept your identity intact. And you will be ready to try again tomorrow, which is the only promise life has ever offered. You don't need a new personality to own your afternoon. You need a sequence. You need standards that do not ask your mood for permission. You need a handful of small, repeatable acts that say to your mind, to your calendar, and to your environment, "We know who is in charge here." The world will not rearrange itself to make this easy, but it will reward your consistency with something rare, a life that moves in the direction you keep saying it will. So here is your vow, spoken softly, because it does not require applause. This afternoon, before you open another tab, take 5 minutes and draw the line. Control versus concern. Circle your 3. Then claim 10 minutes of recovery, a short walk, and 1 honest, deep work interval. When it ends, reset your desk, triage only what must be triaged, and run your admin hour like a craftsman sweeping his shop. Close with a sentence that tells your nervous system the truth. Work is closed. Life is now. And then go live it. If you do this imperfectly but repeatedly, your afternoons will start telling a different story about who you are. Not someone at the mercy of screens and schedules, but someone who governs time by governing themselves. That is Stoicism alive in the second half of the day. That is what doubles productivity without doubling stress. And that is what gives you something even better than output, the quiet, private respect of looking at a sunset and knowing you moved what mattered while the world was busy moving itself. In the last conversation, we rebuilt your afternoons, the quiet half of the day where most people let their standards droop and their attention wander. You saw how small, almost invisible rituals could reclaim hours you thought were lost. A 5-minute reset, a 10-minute walk, a 1-sentence shutdown. If you felt the shift, it wasn't just in your calendar, it was in your posture. You carried yourself differently because you were choosing differently. And that's the strange secret the world keeps missing. Respect doesn't begin with applause. It begins with alignment. Order inside becomes gravity outside. If yesterday taught you to move time with intention, today I want to show you how to move people without raising your voice. Not with theatrics, not with speeches, with 5 silent behaviors that, lived consistently, make rooms hush and plans gather around you as if your presence were a signal fire. This isn't about performing a role, it's about becoming a person whose standards speak before your mouth ever opens. There is a moment you know well. You walk into a meeting, a kitchen, a gym, and a single glance tells you who holds the room. No swagger, no spotlight, just an economy of motion, a steadiness of gaze, a refusal to be rushed. We call it presence, but presence is not an accident. It is the residue of decisions you've made for so long that your body now tells the truth even when you are quiet. The Stoics understood this. They never chased respect. They chased mastery of the only domain you can truly own, yourself. Respect turned out to be the shadow that mastery cast. Begin with the first behavior and hold it like a compass in your pocket. Self-command. Most people think power is the ability to move others. The Stoic knows power is the ability to move yourself. You feel it most on the days when your emotions want the wheel, the email that stings, the critic who misunderstands you in public, the traffic that arrives like an insult. Weakness grabs the microphone. Strength reaches for the reins. Self-command is not icy suppression. It's warm stewardship. Imagine your mind as a crowded theater where some loud characters keep leaping on stage. Anger, anxiety, pride, envy. The itch to prove you're right. Self-command is the stage manager. You may exist, but you don't run the show. The simplest ritual is the shortest. Pause. One breath in, one breath held, one breath out longer than the inhale. Then ask the Stoics 2 questions. Is this in my control? And what action here would honor my values? You are not negotiating with your mood, you are negotiating with your standards. Your mood is weather, your standards are climate. Every time you keep a promise you made to yourself, waking when you said you would, showing up when excuses tap your shoulder, finishing when boredom campaigns for escape, you are laying bricks in the invisible fortress called self-respect. Others can't see the bricks being set, but they feel the walls when they stand near you. They sense that your yes will be rare and reliable, that your no will be clean and defended. This changes how they speak to you. It changes what they dare to ask of you. It changes whether they test your boundaries or stand up straighter when you arrive. You didn't lecture them into that shift. You lived yourself into it. From self-command flows a second behavior that seems mechanical until you watch it move entire teams. Precision of action. Life wastes the sloppy. It rewards the exact. Precision is the refusal to spend 10 words where 5 will do, 10 steps where 3 suffice, 10 days on what deserved an afternoon. It isn't speed, it's clarity embodied. Think of a carpenter who measures once with attention and then cuts without drama. Think of the surgeon whose hands don't shake, not because she's fearless, but because she practiced steadying them when no one was looking. In your day, precision sounds like this. The real outcome here is X by Friday at 3 p.m. It looks like this. 1 tab open for the work you're doing, 1 short, honest draft, instead of a dozen ornate procrastinations, 1 clear request that can be answered with a yes, a no, or a date. Precision is not glamorous while you practice it. It is glamorous when the results arrive faster than other people expected. The Stoics called it living according to nature, without excess, without ornament, without theatrical detours. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. If it is not necessary, do not carry it. When you begin to trim your life to the bones of what matters, your movements become sentences people can read. Here is someone who wastes neither their time nor mine. Meetings contract around you. Projects get to the point around you. And strangely, your presence makes others more precise too. Your standard becomes a mirror they adjust themselves in front of. Now, precision in motion sets the stage for the behavior most people get wrong because they think power must be loud, restraint in speech. The world rewards attention, so the insecure try to purchase it with volume. But attention is not respect. If you talk long enough, people will find the seams in your logic and the vanity in your tone. If you speak less but say more, your words gain weight, the way currency gains value through scarcity. Restraint is not muteness, it's curation. You listen twice, ask once, and speak only when the sentence serves the outcome or protects a principle. The Stoics practiced this like a martial art. They did not perform knowledge, they deployed it. Epictetus advised, "Let silence be your general rule." When you adopt that rule, something magical happens. The room begins to lean toward you. People notice you are not waiting to talk. You are gathering truth. Your questions are cleaner because they were born in listening, not in the need to display yourself. Your brief comments land harder because they are not fighting for oxygen with 100 other words you wasted earlier. And outside the room, your reputation changes. Ask her. She doesn't say much, but when she does, it matters. That sentence is worth more than any personal brand you could design. It's also a shield. Big talkers must keep proving themselves. The restrained don't. Their silence says, "I don't need to audition. I build." Even still, the world will judge you most when it shakes you. So, practice the fourth behavior until it becomes a reflex. Composure in adversity. Calm is not a personality trait. It is a trained response. Visualize the scenarios that normally flip you: public embarrassment, unfair blame, a sudden loss, the plan collapsing in the 11th hour. Let your body feel the heat. Then rehearse your slower breath and your smaller voice. Rehearse the sentence you will use to buy your mind a minute. I want to respond well. Give me a moment. Rehearse the lens that turns panic into a target. What is mine to do here, and what is not? When the real storm comes, you are not new to the rain. People around you will be. They will watch your hands, steady. They will listen to your tone, low. They will notice what you don't do. Raise your voice, assign blame, catastrophize. In those seconds, leadership moves silently from titles to whoever is most anchored. The Stoics pre-mourned loss and pre-forgave insult, not to become numb, but to become useful. Composure is usefulness under pressure. It increases trust because it reduces drama. It saves time because it prevents spirals. It keeps relationships intact because it refuses to cash out long-term bonds for short-term relief. And it is contagious. Your nervous system calms the rooms. Soon, you are the person they call when something breaks. Not because you are the only one who can fix it, but because you are the only one who won't break while they're fixing it beside you. Finally, braid the first four into the one behavior that makes all the others undeniable: consistency over time. The world is full of fireworks, bright, brief, boastful. You don't need to compete with bursts. You need to outlast them. Consistency is invisible while you are doing it, and obvious once it's done. It is not a grand gesture. It's a daily choice that becomes a weekly rhythm, that becomes a quarterly identity. Consistency is the friend who is on time every time without a speech about how much they value punctuality. It is the manager whose one-on-ones happen when promised, regardless of chaos. It is the creator who publishes when they said they would publish, even when the last thing performed poorly and their feelings begged for a week off. When you are consistent, people relax around you. They don't burn calories guessing which version of you will show up. That relaxation becomes respect, because the rarest luxury in modern life is predictability. The Stoics wrote to themselves each morning and night, not because the words were magic, but because repetition is. They practiced small disciplines on ordinary days so that extraordinary days would not surprise them. If you will commit to a small set of standards, wake, work, move, care, close, and protect them like a lighthouse protects its light, people will build their roots around you. You will become infrastructure in their minds, dependable, stable, safe to build upon. And infrastructure is respected not because it shouts, but because everything fails without it. It is tempting to turn these behaviors into a checklist. Today I will be calm. Tomorrow I will be precise. Next week I will speak less. But a checklist turns character into costume. What you want is congruence. The inside and the outside saying the same thing in the same tone across many days. Congruence is felt. It is not an opinion. People feel it when you decline a toxic invitation without drama. They feel it when you maintain your standard alone. They feel it when you defend someone who is absent and could never pay you back. They feel it when you correct a rumor rather than ride it. They feel it when you admit a mistake without a paragraph of context. None of that requires volume. All of it requires backbone. There is a practical way to embed this backbone so it doesn't depend on your best mood. Tie each behavior to a tiny ritual until the ritual becomes your reflex. For self-command, the breath pause and the 2 Stoic questions. For precision, a 1-sentence outcome written at the top of the page before you begin anything. For restraint, a rule to let others finish, then ask 1 clarifying question before you offer an opinion. For composure, a phrase you say out loud, slow is smooth, smooth is fast, as you lower your voice and scan for what's controllable. For consistency, a non-negotiable 5 promises to yourself so small they're almost silly, done every day, especially on bad days. When you place these anchors in your day, you don't have to think your way into respect. You behave your way there. Your nervous system learns the steps. Your reputation collects the interest. If you're worried that silence will make you invisible, remember the distinction we drew yesterday. Hiding is fear. Holding is stewardship. You are not withholding your gifts. You are holding your standards. You are not avoiding conflict. You are approaching it with a tone that builds solutions instead of souvenirs. You are not refusing to speak. You are refusing to litter. In a culture obsessed with expression, restraint is not repression. It is design. A designed life has edges. Edges create shape. Shape creates presence. Presence attracts respect. Imagine the next room you will enter. A meeting, a dinner, a practice, a problem that needs hands. Before you cross the threshold, give yourself 30 seconds. Straighten your spine 1 notch. Unclench your jaw. Place your phone face down in another pocket or another room. Decide 1 sentence that would make this hour successful if you live it. Decide 1 behavior you will practice no matter what phrase. Self-command, precision, restraint, composure, or consistency. Then walk in as if your standard were a gift to the room, not a weapon. You do not have to perform, you have to be. When you leave, you won't need a poll to tell you how you did. Your body will know, your conscience will be quiet. And if you keep living like that for a week, a month, a season, other people will begin to know before you arrive. This one carries themselves differently. Let me speak to the part of you that is tired of trying. You have likely been loud because you were afraid of being ignored. You have likely over-explained because you were afraid of being misunderstood. You have likely rushed because you were afraid of being late to your own life. The medicine is not more volume, more proof, more speed. The medicine is steadiness. The medicine is building a life that respects itself in the details so thoroughly that respect from others becomes a byproduct, not the prize. That is the Stoic promise. Not that the world will kneel, but that you will not. Not that insults will stop, but that you will stop handing them your peace. Not that chaos will vanish, but that you will walk through it like a person who has practiced walking in wind. If you only take 1 step today, let it be this. Choose silence once where you would have chosen noise. Let someone else finish. Delete the defensive text. Answer, "I'll get back to you," and then do. Write the outcome before you start. Lower your voice when your heart rises. Do 1 small thing you promised yourself you would do, even though nobody will notice. Then go to bed a person who kept a vow in private. Do that for 7 days, and see how your eyes look different in the mirror. Do it for 30, and watch how rooms start to make space for you without you asking. Do it for a year, and understand why the old philosophers could lead empires by writing in journals no one else read. Respect is magnetic, but the magnet is inside you. So yes, there are 5 silent behaviors that command massive respect, but they are not tricks. They are forms of love. for your future self, for the truth, for the people who must live and work beside you, for the projects that deserve precision, for the hours that deserve to end with dignity. Practice them, and the world will begin to reflect you differently. It will not happen with confetti. It will happen in how people brief you, how they bring you into rooms earlier, how they ask your opinion last and listen hardest when you finally give it, how they stop testing your boundaries because they can finally see them, how they introduce you to their friends with a sentence that sounds like a compliment but is actually a summary of your character. You can count on this one. Close your eyes for a breath. Say this softly. I will govern myself so I do not need to govern others. I will do less, but I will do it precisely. I will speak rarely, and I will make it count. I will be calm on purpose. I will be consistent, especially when I don't feel like it. Then open your eyes and move one quiet inch toward that life. No more announcements. Your actions will do your public relations from here. Do not argue what a good person should be, Marcus wrote to himself. Be one. Do not argue what a respected person should look like. Become one. Let your silence carry your standards. Let your standards carry your life. And let your life, lived steadily, cleanly, without noise, do what loud lives never can. Command respect without ever needing to demand it. In the last conversation, we rebuilt your presence from the inside out. The quiet discipline, the composure, the restraint that turns a life into a lighthouse. You may have noticed a ripple you didn't expect. The day you stopped chasing noise, the room grew quieter. The moment you stopped pleasing, the invitations thinned. The more you aligned your actions with standards, the fewer people stood beside you when the applause faded. That ache you're feeling, it isn't failure. It's the sound of your life shedding everything that was never meant to go with you. And I want to talk to that feeling, not to make it smaller, but to make it honest. Because there's a difficult truth the Stoics whispered to themselves and lived without complaint. Strength separates. Not because strength is hostile, but because it is specific. It cuts away what cannot carry weight. So let's make a pact, you and I. For a few minutes, we will stop pretending that solitude always means something is wrong. We will stop medicating the quiet with frantic connection. We will stop treating the absence of friends as the absence of worth. Instead, we will read your life like a ledger. We will examine why the stronger you get, the more deliberate, disciplined, and principled, the more likely it is that your circle shrinks. And we will do it with tenderness, because this isn't about superiority, it's about sovereignty. This isn't about rejecting people, it's about refusing to reject yourself in order to be accepted by them. If you listen closely, you'll hear something new behind the word alone. You'll hear the outline of a life that no longer needs permission. The first reason lives at the root of everything. Strong people refuse mediocrity. Most friendships are held together by unwritten treaties, treaties of convenience, of comfort, of let's not try too hard so none of us feel bad. The glue is mutual slack. Don't change too much. Don't demand too much. Don't grow too fast. But when you begin to set standards and keep them, when you stop using the group's inertia as shelter, you break the treaty without saying a word. You decline the late-night gossip. You pass on the third drink. You leave the conversation when it turns into complaint. And because you choose the heavier lift of self-respect over the lighter lift of belonging, something predictable happens. The invitations slow. You become different, distant, too intense. Nothing is wrong. You simply stopped renting your life to other people's comfort. Strength raises the rent. Mediocrity can't afford the tariff. This takes us to the second reason, which is less philosophical and more human. Strength intimidates the insecure. You can be kind, you can be generous, but if your life is governed by your own compass, if your words match your actions and your boundaries have a backbone, your existence becomes a measuring stick, not because you are judging, but because you are a visible alternative. The insecure don't see your example as help. They experience it as threat. Your discipline becomes an indictment of their excuses. Your calm becomes an exposure of their reactivity. Your standards become a mirror they didn't ask to stand in front of. And since breaking the mirror is easier than changing the face, they create distance. They name you cold, aloof, arrogant, labels that make retreat feel like virtue. The Stoic answer is not to dim your light, it is to accept that some eyes prefer the dark. Now, the third reason cuts to the heart of why small talk leaves you starving. Strong people value depth over breadth. They'd rather spend an hour on one real conversation than a weekend in 10 shallow ones. They want to talk about responsibility, grief, craft, faith, death, meaning, the big furniture of a life, and watch how the other person's eyes hold it. But depth is heavy, and heavy scares people who only trained for light. Many friendships are built on oxygen, trivia, trends, jokes that float above the floorboards. Invite meaning into the room, and you'll feel the temperature change. Some will change with it. Many will grab their coat. The strong don't scold them. They simply stop pretending oxygen is food. And because the menu changed, the restaurant empties. If you're willing to pay that price, you begin to meet a different species of person, the kind who doesn't flinch when you name the thing you lost or the thing you're afraid to lose. Honesty is the fourth reason the circle thins. Not the loud kind that uses truth as a weapon, but the loyal kind that uses truth as a rescue rope. Strong people will not co-sign your self-deception. They won't clap for your rationalizations. They won't tell you the comfortable story when the true story would save you. And while the world praises honesty in quotes, it punishes it in rooms. Tell me the truth, people say, meaning, tell me the truth if it flatters me. The strong learn to bear the friction. They choose to be trustworthy over being popular. They accept being labeled harsh today to prevent a friend from crashing tomorrow. They know that honest words are expensive to say and expensive to hear, and that most relationships are funded by cheaper currency, so they lose many. But the ones that survive are made of Kevlar. Stoic friendship is rare for this reason. It is welded, not taped. The fifth reason is accountability, and it's a quiet killer of casual bonds. Strong people live by a simple ledger. Did you do what you said you would do? Not because they're pedantic, but because they know that trust is built from small payments on time. They won't let you set fire to your life and ask them to hold the gasoline. They won't sit backstage while you perform victimhood for applause. They'll ask, what part of this is yours to fix? And when they fail, because strong doesn't mean flawless, they hold their own feet to the flame before the world can. Accountability is contagious to those who want to get better and corrosive to those who want to stay the same. The latter drift away, sometimes loudly. You're judgmental, they say, meaning, you won't sponsor my denial. Let them go. You cannot onboard passengers who keep drilling holes in the boat. The sixth reason is independence, the kind that is misunderstood as indifference. Strong people are self-generating. They don't hunger for validation, they don't beg for attention, and they don't require constant reassurance to function. They prefer counsel to consensus. They know how to occupy their own company without running from it. In a culture that treats loneliness like a disease, and constant connection like health. Self-sufficiency looks suspicious. People take your solitude personally, as if your ability to be alone were a verdict on their worth. It isn't. It's the product of training. The Stoics practiced being okay with themselves because they knew they would spend the most time with that person. The fewer needs you outsource, the fewer debt-based friendships you have. Many bonds dissolve when they can't charge rent on your insecurity. Seventh is boundaries, the invisible fences those with leaky lives resent. Strong people draw lines in advance so they don't have to draw swords later. They decline what is misaligned, even when the price is social friction. They refuse to explain no like a defendant building a case. They won't let urgency bully them, guilt leash them, or charm buy them. To people who survive by breaching borders, a boundary feels like aggression. They will push, they will test, they will smear. But a boundary is not a wall against love. It is a gate that keeps love from being trampled. Over time, your boundaries teach the world how to treat you. Those who can't learn, go study someone else. Eighth is time, the economy the strong understand and the casual ignore. When you take your finite hours seriously, you stop treating them like loose change. You compress meetings. You decline distractions. You spend afternoons doing actual work rather than rehearsing busyness for an audience. This offends the church of availability. People who are allergic to focus will treat your calendar like a public park and call you selfish when you put up a fence. But time is not only money, it is meaning. You cannot build anything durable surrounded by constant access. The Stoics protected mornings for thought and evenings for audits. You can protect your afternoons for deep work and your weekends for the people who carry your last name. When you do, acquaintances who loved you for your constant presence will fade. Friends who love you for your purpose will stay. Ninth is purpose itself, the gravitational center that reorganizes your social sky. When your life orbits a mission, the conversations that used to fill it start to feel like sand in the gears. You will always have room for laughter, for beauty, for rest. You will not have room for relationships that exist to anesthetize you between episodes. Purpose doesn't make you a monk. It makes you a steward. It insists that your gifts are not props, but instruments. The moment you treat them that way, your social algorithm changes. You attract builders. You repel spectators. And between those poles lies a wide silence that can feel like abandonment if you mislabel it. It isn't abandonment, it is air, finally clear enough that your next step becomes visible. 10th is resilience, which the world often misreads as a lack of feeling. Strong people break and rebuild. They bleed privately, review soberly, and return steadily. They don't broadcast every wound, not because they are ashamed, but because they are busy healing. In a culture trained to equate visible emotion with honesty, quiet recovery looks like coldness. People say, "You don't open up," meaning you don't perform your pain on demand. The Stoic does open, wisely, selectively, and in rooms that can hold the weight. This shrinks the audience dramatically and deepens the bond infinitely. If you demand constant access to someone else's interior to feel close, the strong will always feel far. They are not far. They are guarding what allows them to keep showing up for the world when it needs them. 11th, and this one is easy to miss because it is humble, is that strong people redefine friendship from entertainment to alignment. They don't collect contacts, they cultivate allies. A friend is not merely someone who shares your laughter, but someone who shares your load and occasionally your silence. A friend is someone with whom you can disagree without desertion, with whom you can plan in years rather than weekends, with whom your values rhyme even when your personalities don't. By this definition, you will not have many friends. You will have a few whose loyalty is not rented by proximity or purchased by flattery. The rest of the world will remain acquaintances, colleagues, companions, good people perhaps, but not the ones you call when the ground moves. The strong are not friendless. They are precise with the word friend. Now take a step back and look at what you've built. Refusing mediocrity, intimidating the insecure without trying, preferring depth, practicing honesty, demanding accountability, carrying independence, defending boundaries, honoring time, orbiting purpose, healing quietly, redefining friendship, each of these thins the crowd. Together, they create a path that looks deserted if you only count footsteps. But look again. You will see tracks, your own, steady and straight, and a few others beside you that didn't appear until the terrain got rough. You don't meet those people in the food court of life. You meet them in the storm. That's why you thought you had none, because you were standing in sunny places where depth rarely gathers. There is a temptation here to become bitter, to mistake being particular for being superior, to weaponize solitude into contempt. Resist it. Stoic solitude is not misanthropy. It is craftsmanship. The point is not to despise the crowd, but to outgrow the need to disappear into it. If you can sit in a room alone and feel whole, you will carry a fullness into rooms with others that makes you generous instead of hungry. You will no longer demand that friendship anesthetize you. You will invite friendship to animate you. That shift melts the brittleness from your strength. It makes your company restful, not performative. And rest is magnetic to people who also carry weight. None of this means you must stay alone. It means you must stay honest. If your life is empty of friends because you terrorize rooms with your certainty, fix that. If your circle is small because you confuse cruelty with candor, fix that. If you stand alone because you secretly believe no one is ever good enough, fix that. Stoicism is not a mask for arrogance. It is a mirror for humility. The right kind of strength makes you more human, not less. It operates with mercy because it remembers how much work it took to become stable. Let's get practical for a moment, not with hacks, but with habits that let strength and friendship coexist. Guard your mornings for yourself so you can give your afternoons to others without resentment. When you meet someone whose life rhymes with yours, invest early and quietly. Send the article, show up on time, keep the smallest promise. Host without spectacle. Ask questions that cost you the comfort of small talk. Refuse gossip like you refuse poison. When offense knocks, delay your response by a night. When envy whispers, write down 3 things the other person does that you can learn. End your days with an audit. Where did I choose principle over belonging? And where did I use principle as a mask for fear? These are the small mechanics that allow strong people to build the kind of friendships strong people rarely think they're allowed to have. You may still walk through seasons where the only conversation you can count on is the one you have in a notebook. That season is not a sentence, it is training. Write to yourself the way Marcus did. Teach yourself the way Epictetus did. Govern yourself the way Seneca commanded himself. When you do, you become someone you would want to be friends with, someone whose presence makes other people's lives steadier. And if you become that, you will not stay alone forever. You will find the others, or they will find you. Depth recognizes depth, like rivers find the sea. Let me end by speaking to the ache directly. You wanted strength and got silence with it. You wanted purpose and lost a few picnic invitations. You outgrew certain jokes, certain nights, certain rooms, and part of you wonders if the cost was too high. Here is the simplest test. Ask yourself, has my solitude made me bitter or better? If it made you bitter, soften. If it made you better, continue. The point was never to have no friends. The point was to stop losing yourself to keep them. When you stop losing yourself, the friendships you eventually keep will be the kind that don't require it. Close your eyes, just for a breath. Say this quietly. I will not betray my standards to purchase company. I will not dim my purpose to be easier to look at. I will not wield my solitude as a weapon, nor my strength as a wall. I will walk steadily until the right voices can keep pace. Then open your eyes and step back into your day. Answer the messages you should answer. Decline what you must. Do the work that proves your words. Sleep knowing that respect and friendship, the kind that last, are built the same way, in small, honest choices repeated without audience. If, for a stretch, you make those choices without anyone beside you, remember this: the path to the summit is narrow by design. It isn't proof that you're lost, it's proof that you're climbing. In the last conversation, we traced the hard edges of solitude and strength, why choosing standards over approval can thin the crowd and thicken your character. If you felt that lesson in your bones, you probably slept with a different kind of quiet. And yet the morning still arrived like it always does, uncompromising, indifferent, honest. That first light does not flatter you. It reveals the truth about how your day will be shaped. Here's the part most people miss. Discipline is not challenged first by the hardest moments of your day, but by the softest ones, the first 5 minutes, the first 5 choices, the almost invisible concessions you make before anyone else is awake to see them. If your afternoons are the arena, your mornings are the armory, and many lose the battle before they have strapped on their shield. Today we will walk calmly and directly through 9 morning habits that look harmless but quietly erode your self-command, not with blame, but with clarity. The Stoics would tell you that a person is made where the world is quietest. Dawn is that workshop. If you can govern your first hour, you do not need to beg the rest of the day to be kind. So sit with me for a while, not as entertainment, but as inventory. You are not about to hear tips. You are about to see your reflection, and then you are going to choose what to do with it. The first slow leak is the negotiation with the alarm, what you call just 5 more minutes. This is not about whether you wake at 4 a.m. or 7 a.m. The clock is not the villain here. The villain is the bargain you make with your own word. When you tell yourself you will rise at a time and then immediately ask for an exception, you file a small report in your nervous system that your promises are suggestions. The body learns this language. The mind learns this language. Soon, the rest of your commitments start to feel optional because the first one was. Stoicism is not austerity for its own sake. It is the training of a will that can be trusted. A reliable life is built on reliable moments, and the very first moment of your day is a referendum on your reliability. You do not need to become militant to fix this. You need to become honest. If you will rise at 6:30, set it and keep it. If you will rise at 7, set it and keep it. But stop breaking the first contract you sign every morning. You are not just buying 9 more minutes of sleep. You are selling 9 ounces of respect for your own word. Once you keep that first promise for a week, Notice how a strange lightness appears around your second promise of the day. That is not magic. That is compounding integrity. From the alarm, we move to the second leak, touching the phone before you touch your mind. You think you are checking the weather, the news, the world. What you are actually doing is allowing other people's priorities to reach you before your own principles do. When your first emotions belong to a screen, your day becomes a reaction to headlines, messages, metrics. You outsource the tone of your mind to the loudest bidder. The Stoics trained their attention the way an athlete trains a dominant hand. Mornings belong to ownership. If the first sensation your eyes see is a blue glow, you have already ceded the quiet throne you were meant to sit on. This is not an argument for becoming a hermit. It is a reminder that your inner citadel requires a guard change at dawn. Put the phone in another room. Touch water before you touch pixels. Touch paper before you touch feeds. Write 3 lines. What is within my control today? What is outside my control that will still arrive? And who I choose to be regardless. These lines are not a diary. They are a declaration of jurisdiction. Once you have reclaimed the province of your attention, you can visit the rest of the world without becoming its subject. The third habit, eroding discipline, hides inside your bed, the unmade environment. People speak about mindset as if it floats in the air. It does not. It sits on your nightstand. It hangs in your closet. It piles on your chair. When you leave your bed in disarray, when clothes from yesterday slump over furniture, when your room carries the scent of yesterday's improvisation, you are staging your day with a prop that whispers, "We will clean up later." Later rarely arrives. Stoic order is not aesthetic perfection. It is functional respect. Making a bed is trivial if you treat it as a chore for strangers to judge. It is foundational if you treat it as a visible, verifiable win in the first 120 seconds of consciousness. You are telling your brain, we finish what we start. We leave things better than we found them. We are a person who closes loops. That message matters when the first email arrives with a loose thread, when the first task tempts you to jump tabs, when the first conversation asks you to listen all the way to the end. Do not become a museum. Become a workshop where tools are put back quickly so they are easy to reach again. The fourth sabotage is breakfast as sedation, a chemistry problem disguised as comfort. Discipline is not just mental, it lives in your blood sugar, your hydration, your sleep debt, your caffeine timing. If you begin the day with a flood of sugar and a tsunami of coffee, you create a spike and crash soundtrack your decisions must dance to. The crash will arrive at an inconvenient hour, and you will call it lack of motivation. It was not motivation you lacked. It was a stable platform for your mind to stand on. Eat like a person who intends to think clearly. Protein, fiber, water first. Use caffeine like a tool, not like a rescue flare. Delay it a little to allow your natural wakefulness to climb, and it will work better when you use it. None of this is about dieting. It is about respect for the instrument carrying you into the day. Marcus Aurelius did not ask his mind to be a good emperor while feeding his body like a festival. Treat breakfast as scaffolding for self-control, not a reward for waking up. Notice the difference 2 weeks later when the 10 a.m. you used to dread becomes a clean, even stretch of track your focus can run on. The fifth morning habit that hollowed out your resolve arrives under the banner of "I'll just check." 1,000 small open loops. You start a message, switch to a calendar, skim a headline, glance at analytics, reply to a DM, open a task manager, and by the time you return to the first thing, you no longer want to do it. Your attention has become confetti. The Stoic method is not asceticism, it is sequence. Decide what the first meaningful action of your day is, and do it in one piece, even if the piece is small. Write the paragraph before you check if someone liked last night's post. Make the call before you rearrange columns in a spreadsheet that didn't ask to be rearranged. Ship one atom of value before you wander the mall of your apps. Every half start trains your will to enjoy the spark of beginnings and avoid the heat of finishing. Reverse it. Reward yourself with variety after one real finish. When you complete something early, you create a tailwind for the rest of the day that cannot be purchased by multitasking. Your mind recognizes itself in the mirror and says, "Ah, a person who does." Closely related is the sixth leak. Starting the day with stories instead of facts. You roll out of bed and begin narrating. "I'm behind. Today will be chaotic. I never get a break. I'm not a morning person." None of those sentences is data. They are scripts written by yesterday's fatigue. The Stoics were ruthless with stories. They demanded proof. Is it chaotic, or am I afraid of the work? Am I behind, or have I chosen too many priorities? Am I not a morning person, or have I trained my mornings badly? Discipline erodes when identity excuses replace specific adjustments. Change your language, and you change your leverage. Replace "I'm behind" with "Two things must move by noon. Here they are." Replace "I don't have time" with "I chose something else yesterday. I will choose this today." Replace "I'm not a morning person" with "I am a person who keeps the first promise." You are not hypnotizing yourself with positivity. You are removing fog from the windshield so you can see the road you actually drive. People lose entire months to narratives that felt true and weren't. You do not need to impress anyone with optimism. You need to be accurate enough to act. Seventh, and deceptively gentle. Beginning in reactive conversation. You wake and immediately enter other people's moods, text threads, group chats, small crises that are actually requests in costume. There is a time to respond. It is not the first act. The opening minutes of your day are for building the stance from which you will respond. If you answer everything before you align yourself, you are borrowing composure from a future you who may never get the loan back. Set visiting hours for the world. Guard your calendar like a farmer guards a field. A healthy morning practice is not selfish. It is strategic generosity. The people who need you later will get a better version if the first version was not spent on low-urgency favors. Epictetus advised students not to discourse at random on every subject, but to choose their use of speech as a carpenter chooses tools. Choose your first conversation with intention, something that steadies you, a page of philosophy, a prayer, a quiet walk, a passage reread not for novelty, but for alignment. Then open the gates. If you reverse it, you will spend the day building other people's houses and come home to a foundation you never poured. The eighth habit that dissolves discipline masquerades as harmless delay. The wandering morning. No defined start, no first anchor, just a drift from bed to sink to screen to kitchen to chair, every movement governed by whatever is loudest. Drift breeds doubt. Doubt breeds avoidance. Avoidance breeds guilt. Guilt breeds more drift. A simple, brief sequence, 5 steps, 15 minutes, breaks the spell. Wake, water, make bed, move body, write the 3 lines. That is not a ritual for influencers. It is a pre-flight checklist for a human being who intends to fly. When you remove decision-making from the first 15 minutes, your discipline stops paying a tax to indecision. The sequence does not need to be impressive. It needs to be consistent. The point is not performance. The point is posture. When you stand inside a small structure of your own design, your day hears a different tone in your voice when you speak to it. Finally, the 9th habit, the quietest thief of all, is beginning the day without an end in mind. Mornings that do not name an evening create days that never finish. Discipline requires closure. The Stoics closed their days with audits. What did I intend? What did I live? What will I adjust? If you want to hold your line under pressure, you must know where your line is drawn. When you wake, ask, what would make today clearly well spent, even if nothing else occurs? Choose one meaningful move, one stone moved in a project that matters, one difficult conversation begun, 1 hour defended for craft, one act of service rendered without witness. Put it on paper. Put it on the calendar. Put the tools out where your hands can find them. You are not predicting the weather. You are placing a flag on a hill and telling your mind, we are going there. Then, when detours arrive, as they always do, you do not have to renegotiate your purpose at every crossroad. You already decided once. Strength is not the absence of interruption. It is the refusal to become one. If these 9 leaks feel uncomfortably familiar, good. Discomfort is the tuition for clarity. You are not being asked to become someone else by sunrise tomorrow. You are being invited to stop slowly undoing the person you are trying to be. Remove one leak and watch the pressure return to your will. Keep your first promise and notice how the second becomes cheaper. Touch paper before pixels and notice how the tone of your inner voice drops an octave. Make a bed and notice how your mind stops narrating chaos. Feed your brain like you plan to use it. Finish one small thing before you open 7. Replace dramatic stories with precise plans. Schedule the world after you schedule yourself. Sequence the first 15 minutes so your day has a spine. Name an end so your morning has a direction. Let me speak, briefly but directly, to the part of you that resists. You've tried routines before. You've set alarms, made lists, promised yourself new lives on Sunday nights. Then Wednesday arrived with emails, and by Friday you were dragging the old week across the new one. I am not asking you to believe in motivation. I am asking you to believe in momentum. Stoicism is not a festival of self-denial. It is a technology for turning small, repeatable acts into identity. Keep one morning promise quietly for 10 days, and your brain will begin to treat you like the person who keeps promises. That identity will follow you into rooms where nobody cares about your list, but everybody responds to your presence. None of your competitors can out-hype the person who steadily outkeeps their word. There is a second resistance. What if I fail? You will. The Stoics expected failure. That is why they designed practices that resume easily. If you break the sequence, resume it without ceremony tomorrow. If you touch the phone, put it down after 1 minute and touch the page. If you break the alarm bargain, keep every other promise and meet the alarm again the next day. Do not turn a small miss into a moral verdict. The morning is a teacher who shows up every day. If you ignore today's lesson, she will offer it again tomorrow with the same calm voice. Your job is not to be perfect. It is to become predictable to yourself. Close your eyes for a breath. Picture tomorrow's dawn. No audience, no applause. See your hand moving the alarm from negotiate to keep. See your feet finding the floor and your spine remembering its job. See water, bed, breath, page. See one clear action that plants a flag in the day. See the evening you named in the morning arriving, not by luck, but by small agreements honored in private. That is discipline. It is not loud. It does not beg. It does not need you to be someone else. It needs you to stop leaking away the person you already are. And when you open your eyes and step back into the world, do not announce anything. Do not post anything. Do not turn this into theater. Tomorrow, when the light comes, meet it with the simplest act of governance available to a human being. Keep the first promise. Then build your morning like a craftsman lays brick. One, then one, then one, until the world begins to feel slightly different around you. It will. Because when you stop letting 9 small habits erode your will at dawn, the rest of the day learns a lesson it was not prepared to learn. You are the one in charge here. If you need a final sentence to carry in your pocket, let it be Marcus's old instruction to himself, adjusted for sunrise. Do not argue what a disciplined morning should be. Live one. Then watch what your afternoons begin to believe about you. And watch what your life becomes when the person who greets the mirror at daybreak is the same person who closes the door at night. In the last conversation, we rebuilt your mornings, not as a pretty routine to post, but as a private contract with yourself. You learned how a kept promise before sunrise becomes the spine of your day. If you felt that shift, you also felt something else. A steadiness that doesn't shout. It's quiet, like a lighthouse. But here's the part that stings. Most of us walk into that light and then hand the switch to someone else by noon. Not because we're weak, but because we're untrained in seeing how power leaks out of us in tiny, polite ways. The Stoics didn't waste time arguing about who held the throne or the purse. They asked a harder question. Who holds your judgment? Who holds your mood? Who holds your next move? If the answer is anything outside of me, you have already begun to give away what no thief can take unless you offer it, your inner sovereignty. I want this to feel personal, not a lecture, a reckoning. Imagine this episode like a mirror you can't look away from. You will see yourself. That's not shame, that's a map. 10 signs woven into the kind of day you and I live, where you hand over the keys not with a slam, but with a sigh. For each sign, I'm going to put the power back where it belongs, not in a motivational poster, but in a sentence you can live when the real day arrives with its real friction. You give away your power the moment you let approval decide your direction. It doesn't look dramatic. It looks like soft edits to your life so other people won't flinch. You wanted to build something difficult. Someone rolled their eyes, and you picked an easier problem so you didn't have to hold their gaze. You wanted to leave the conversation where gossip was currency. A laugh invited you to stay, and you paid the fee with your integrity. Approval is the cheapest drug because the first hit is free. The Stoic answer isn't rebellion for its own sake, it's jurisdiction. Ask, whose court is this play being judged in? If the tribunal is the timeline, the family group chat, the boss's frown, you have already abandoned your city. Return to it. Write your reasons before you write your announcement. If your reasons stand when the room is empty, let the room be empty. Respect that begins inside eventually echoes outside. Respect that begins outside never makes it inside at all. You give away your power when you let emotion assign your actions. People will call this honesty. It is just poor management. Anger shows up with a megaphone, grief with an anchor, envy with a whisper that sounds like a truth. If you let any of them hold your schedule, They will spend you on enemies you don't have and emergencies that don't exist. The Stoics didn't demonize feelings. They demoted them. An impression is upon me, Marcus wrote, but I resist it. Translate that into a ritual. Name the weather. Anger is present. And name the captain. I choose restraint. Walk once around the block before you send the message. You will have to walk back. Take one breath longer than your pride wants and ask the only relevant question: what outcome preserves my character? A delayed anger is a different species. It's useful. A sent anger is a bill you'll pay when you wanted to be sleeping. You give away your power by turning your life into a courtroom. Some of you cannot say no without building a legal defense. You think credibility is born in the footnotes. You don't decline. You apologize for disappointing imaginary councils that never convened. The longer your explanation travels, the less power returns with it. There is a stoic elegance in short sentences that don't shake. No, thank you. That doesn't work for me. I won't be available. These are not acts of violence. They are acts of stewardship. Over-explaining is a leak disguised as politeness. Close it. The people who need a thesis to accept your boundary are not asking for clarity. They are bargaining for control. Never bargain your sovereignty for their comfort. You give away your power each time you allow disrespect to rent a seat beside you. I'm not talking about the one-off clumsy comment. I'm talking about the repeated pattern that you explain away because it's inconvenient to acknowledge. Stoicism asks you to endure hardship, not humiliation. Seneca said, "He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary." Suffering disrespect when you have doorways you refuse to use is a form of voluntary pain. Correct it calmly once. If it repeats, remove yourself without ceremony. You don't owe anyone a public trial of their character to justify leaving. Quiet exits are acts of authority. The room will update itself. If it doesn't, let it do so without you. You give away your power when you need to be right more than you need to be aligned. Notice how your nervous system spikes when a stranger on the internet misunderstands you. Notice how you clear the afternoon to win an argument that pays you nothing. Stoicism proposes a profitable cowardice. Do not enter contests you cannot win or do not need to. Epictetus said, "No one can make you believe what you judge false." That's the secret. The truth you live is not available for purchase in someone else's comment box. Smile and preserve your day. If accuracy is your aim, write it cleanly once, and then go build something that proves it. Real victories are quiet receipts, not public verdicts. You give away your power every time you time travel. Regret is a museum you keep paying to visit. Anxiety is a city you keep trying to govern before you move there. Meanwhile, today dissolves. The Stoics pulled themselves by the collar back into the only jurisdiction that exists, the present. Confine yourself to the present, Marcus wrote, in a tone that reads like a stern father and a kind friend. Translate it into practice. When your mind drifts backward, ask, "Is there a repair I can make now?" If yes, make it. If no, release it like a letter you never needed to open twice. When your mind bolts forward, ask, "Is there a preparation I can do now?" If yes, do it. If no, release it like a meeting that was never on your calendar. Your power is a live wire. You cannot light your house with yesterday's electricity or tomorrow's forecast. You give away your power whenever your mouth writes checks your heart can't cash. The dishonest yes is a small betrayal that becomes a large resentment. You accept the coffee you don't want, the project you can't carry, the weekend you needed for sleep. Then you perform a version of yourself and call it generous. The price isn't just tiredness, it's fracture. You begin to distrust your own promises because you keep offering parts of yourself you then punish yourself for giving. Reverse the math. A clean no preserves 10 future yeses that are utterly sincere. People feel that difference. So do you. Stoic kindness isn't passive, it is precise. It says, I am the steward of this life. Your need matters, my limits do too. Real kindness never requires self-betrayal. You give away your power through comparison disguised as research. You scroll to study the landscape and wake up living in someone else's weather. Their highlight becomes your horizon, and your lane feels smaller because their lane appears wide. Marcus called this out simply. Another's success neither improves your character nor injures it. The antidote is unfashionable and nuclear. Gratitude. Not as a hashtag, as an audit. Name 3 present facts each morning that would break your heart to lose. Then act like a person entrusted with them, because you are. Once you remember your inventory, you have something better to do than inventory other people. Commitment is the cure for envy. Commitment to the work that would still be worth doing even if no one ever saw it. You give away your power when you peg your peace to externals. It feels responsible to say your happiness depends on the market, the metrics, the inbox, the outcome. It even sounds sophisticated, like you're realistic. It's also a trap. Every external you hitch your mood to becomes a lever anyone can pull. The Stoics tethered peace to virtue because nothing else is theft-proof. Ask a brutal question. If the numbers never move, would I still do this because it's right? If the answer is no, you were trying to buy applause with your effort. If the answer is yes, congratulate yourself. You just put your contentment somewhere weather can't touch it. Money is a tool. Opportunity is a door. Praise is a breeze. None of them are oxygen. Virtue is oxygen. Breathe there. You give away your power most completely when you whisper, I had no choice. We all say it. We rarely mean it. You always have a choice of response. Tone, speed, frame, focus, next move. The tyrant can narrow your options, but he can't choose which one you pick. The storm can flood the road, but it can't choose whether you build a boat or a shelter or a new route. But it's hard is a true sentence. It isn't a verdict. Power returns the moment you switch from lament to logistics. Given this, what is mine to do is a sovereign question. Ask it out loud. Ask it every time. You will be surprised how quickly your posture changes from hunted to hunter, from passenger to pilot. Let these 10 signs braid together into one instruction. Reclaim jurisdiction. Not over the market or other people's tongues or the weather at high noon, over your judgments, your boundaries, your attention, your word. That's the city you govern. When you govern it well, you walk through other cities, offices, families, platforms, without needing to conquer them. Power ceases to be a performance and becomes an atmosphere. People will misread it. They will call it arrogance because it doesn't bow. They will call it cold because it doesn't melt on cue. That's fine. Stop submitting your weather report to their stations. Your climate is your responsibility. If you want this to be practical, here is a ritual that doesn't require applause to work. In the first quiet minutes of the morning, write 10 small vows that match these 10 leaks. 1 sentence each. I will act from principle, not approval. I will pause before I answer. I will speak a clean no without an essay. I will remove myself from repeated disrespect. I will leave unwinnable contests. I will confine myself to the present and repair or prepare when possible. I will not promise away my peace. I will do my work before I watch theirs. I will place peace in virtue. I will always ask, what is mine to do? Put that card in your pocket. Touch it before meetings, before calls, before you open the app that steals your noon. Do it badly until you do it well. Do it inconsistently until you do it inevitably. You are not manufacturing a new personality. You are ceasing to rent out the one you already have. If you need a story to carry this, imagine a harbor. Every morning, ships arrive with cargo you didn't order. Opinions, provocations, invitations, comparisons, demands. Power is not fencing the ocean. Power is choosing which ships dock, which depart, which are inspected, which are refused. The dockmaster never yells at the sea. He points, he signals, he logs, he turns back what does not belong. Be that quiet, be that precise. You will still feel the wind. You will not give it the keys. Before we close, speak one sentence softly where no one can hear you but the person you must convince. I will not hand my mind to what I cannot control. That is the whole philosophy, condensed and portable. If today you remember it once, on the highway, in the comment, in the kitchen, at the desk, you will feel a click inside, like a door closing on a draft you've lived with for years. The room will warm. You will realize it was never the world that needed to change first. It was the lock, and now you know where the key has been this whole time.